Chapter 695. Special Offer Room. What about the demolition at Shantytown? Is there any movement? Lin Yi didn't pay attention to Master Bing's movements these few days. He only heard that he was rebuilding Qibing's skyscraper again. This time, he found a very efficient construction company, and the framework was already up. Of course, although Lin Yi destroyed his house and broke his leg, his business still had to continue. The slum still had to be demolished, but Lin Yi didn't know if he learned his lesson. They said that they're going to have a meeting with everyone to discuss the compensation. After what happened last time, they'll probably increase the price a little, but it won't be too high. Mrs. Tang sighed. Our house is gone. We'll just have to compensate as much as we can. I don't want to think about that anymore. Now that I think about it, should I rent a house or buy one? Lin Yi couldn't interfere with the compensation. He couldn't go to Zhao Qibing again and force him to compensate Mrs. Tang, could he? He destroyed one of his skyscrapers, so they were barely even. He would let him go for now. If Zhao Qibing knew what Lin Yi was thinking, he'd probably vomit blood in anger. A skyscraper for a broken house, and it was barely enough? Wasn't this too much of a scam? Let's buy one. Renting isn't a solution. Lin Yi thought that buying a house was better than renting one. Buy a house. Mrs. Tang's heart ached. Tang Juqing and Tang Yun also wanted to buy a house. Now that they had the 500,000 from Lin Yi and some money from before, it was more than enough to buy a big house. But Mrs. Tang didn't want to spend all the money in one go. If that happened, the family would have no savings, and the feeling of being rich would be gone again. How could Lin Yi not know what Mrs. Tang was thinking when he saw her pained expression? He smiled faintly. Aunt Wang, I know a friend. He used to be in the real estate business, so he should know a lot of developers. I'll give him a call and see if there are any special offer rooms. All right, that's great. Can you help me ask? Mrs. Tang's greedy personality had not changed at all. When she heard that Lin Yi could get a special price house, she immediately perked up. Actually, even if Lin Yi couldn't get a special price house, Mrs. Tang would still agree to buy a house under Tang Juqing and Tang Yun's insistence. But now that Lin Yi could use his connections to save some money, why not? Mrs. Tang was very happy that she wanted to talk to Lin Yi instead of foolishly running off to buy a house. Wouldn't that be a huge loss? Lin Yi gave Fatty Lai a call. Fatty Lai was in a state of extreme excitement. The press conference was very successful, and he believed that there wouldn't be any more advertisements before the products hit the market. With all these media reports, it would be hard for Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company not to be famous. After all, the fainting incident in the first high school was heavily hyped up by Direwolf. The number of comments on the internet was calculated in units of hundreds of millions. All the netizens in the country were paying attention to this matter. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company solved the fainting incident at the most crucial moment and formulated the corresponding antidote. This kind of reaction speed was enough to make them look down on everyone. By then, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's name would be spread all over the internet. Boss. Fatty Lai picked up the phone. I heard that your press conference was quite successful. Although Lin Yi didn't see it himself, he heard the taxi drivers talking about it on the way here. They said how amazing Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was. Even the hospital couldn't cure the disease, but they cured it. If it wasn't for Boss's powerful prescription, everything I did would be in vain. Fatty Lai's mind was still very clear. He didn't get complacent because of it. He understood that everything was because of Lin Yi's prescription and antidote. If it wasn't for these two, people would have to believe him no matter how much he boasted. You've done very well, Lin Yi praised him. Oh right, how's the preparation of the antidote? The raw materials have been purchased, and it's already on the production line. Elder Guan is there to check, so there shouldn't be a problem, Fatty Lai said. And let me ask you something. Do you know anyone who is selling houses? Lin Yi asked. Selling houses? Why, boss, you want to buy a house? Fatty Lai was stunned and asked. It's Tang Yun's house. Didn't Zhao Qibing destroy the slums? I'm planning to buy a house now. Do you know any developers who are doing promotions or selling houses at special prices? Lin Yi's question was vague, but he believed that with Fatty Lai's intelligence, he would be able to understand Lin Yi's meaning. Indeed, Fatty Lai understood. From the moment he heard that Tang Yun's family wanted to buy a house, he understood Lin Yi's meaning. Fatty Lai used to be in the real estate business. He had a few buildings in Songshan, and some of them were unsold or kept for his own use. Lin Yi couldn't directly tell Tang Yun's family that he wanted to buy a house. With Tang Yun's personality, she would definitely reject it. Mrs. Tang would definitely stay, and there would be some conflict between the mother and daughter. That was the case with the 500,000 yuan from before. Tang Yun always wanted to return it to Lin Yi, but Mrs. Tang wouldn't take it out. So Lin Yi thought of an idea. He wanted Fatty Lai to find an excuse to sell the house to Mrs. Tang at a low price. That way, Mrs. Tang would benefit from it, and Tang Yun wouldn't suspect anything. Oh, there really is. Fatty Lai thought about it and said, "Just tell Andy to contact me directly. I'll take care of it." Lin Yi smiled. Fatty Lai's ability to understand was quite good. He smiled and said, "There is? All right, I'll tell Andy Wang to contact you." Mrs. Tang looked at Lin Yi eagerly. When she heard Lin Yi say there was, her eyes lit up and she almost laughed out loud. She didn't have much money on hand, so she wanted to save as much as possible. "Is there?" "Annie Wang, my friend said that there really is a house with a special price promotion. You can contact him directly." Lin Yi smiled. "Ah, that's great. I'll go check it out tomorrow." Mrs. Tang was also in a hurry to move. She couldn't find a suitable house before, but it was actually a cheap house. Nowadays, housing prices weren't cheap. If she could get a special price house, it would be a great deal. Lin Yi told Mrs. Tang about Fatty Lai's contact. Tang Yun frowned slightly. She was a little suspicious. How could it be such a coincidence? Their family was just about to buy a house, and Lin Yi could find someone to buy a special price house? But she couldn't ask in front of her mother, so she could only keep her doubts in her heart. There were police guards at the door. Some people were happy, while others were sad. Chapter 696. Visiting Jangwen, on the other hand, didn't think the same. He was so worried that his hair was turning white. There were policemen guarding the door, and it was impossible to call the tattooed guy, or Zhong Pingliang. He didn't bring his phone with him, and he was afraid that the police would find out if he used the ward phone. The kidney trafficking organization that he worked so hard for was wiped out by the police, just like that. Jangwen was in a lot of pain, but that wasn't the most painful thing. The most painful thing was that one of his kidneys had been cut off, and if he wasn't mistaken, that kidney should be in Zhong Pingliang's body. Jangwen didn't want to lose a kidney. He wanted to find Zhong Pingliang and get his kidney back, but he didn't dare to do so. Although a kidney was important, it was nothing compared to his life. If the police found out that he was the head of the kidney trafficking organization, what awaited him wouldn't just be jail time. He might even be executed. And so, Jangwen was stuck in a dilemma. All he could do was stay in the room, depressed. The police came to see him, and he had to pretend to be the victim, looking pitiful and pained. In truth, he was in pain, but he didn't expose himself. But he didn't hide his identity. Jangwen wanted to make up a name, but it would be harder to explain if the police found out. He might as well tell them his real name. It would be safer. But what Jangwen didn't expect was that two acquaintances came to visit him. Chun Yutian didn't expect Ling Shan to call him. This made him excited, but at the same time, he was surprised. Why was Ling Shan calling him? Ling Shan didn't expect that Lu Wangli's victim list would include Jangwen, one of the famous Songshan 4 young masters. Of course, Ling Shan didn't have a good impression of a playboy like this at all. This was also why she didn't like Chun Yutian at all. He only knew how to use his family background to bully others and act cool outside. What was left after he left his family's power? Although Chun Yutian had changed a lot these few years, Ling Shan still didn't have any feelings for him. Their relationship was only slightly better than before. They could be considered as normal friends. So since they were normal friends, Ling Shan still needed to inform Chun Yutian when something happened to Jangwen. Plus, as much as she hated Jangwen was one of the more important people in the city. She had to pay him a visit. Ling Shan called Yutian to visit Jangwen at the hospital. No matter what, Yutian was very happy that Lingshan asked him out alone. However, Chen Yutian felt strange that Jiang Wen had one of his kidneys cut off by a kidney trafficking organization. Especially when he was drinking yesterday, he was fine. But today, he was in the hospital. This made Chen Yutian feel miserable. Lingshan was cold the whole way, her face cool and emotionless. Yutian had a lot of things he wanted to say, but he didn't know where to start. He tried to say something that didn't hurt, but Lingshan just ignored him. Yutian could only smile bitterly. From the looks of it, he really didn't have a big chance. Lingshan's words, in particular, made Yutian give up completely. He felt that he had no hope in this life. I've broken through the middle phase of the golden class into the late phase. What's your strength now? Lingshan thanked Lin Yi from the bottom of her heart. If it wasn't for Lin Yi, she wouldn't have been able to break through. What else could Yutian do other than smile bitterly? He had just broken through to the early phase of the golden class. He wasn't even at the peak of the early phase, let alone the middle phase. The difference between him and Lingshan was like heaven and earth. Chen Yutian, I hope you can face yourself. The difference between us is too big. We're not suitable. Lingshan knew what Yutian was thinking, but she didn't expect him to still be thinking about her after so many years. Not suitable. Yutian sighed. Lingshan wasn't giving him a chance at all. You think you can beat me? Lingshan raised her head and stared at Yutian. I told you before, I don't like men who are weaker than me. When have you ever been strong in front of me? Not even once. You're always this weak, asking if I have time or not. Asking if I have a chance. Look at what you've done. If you really have the strength, why don't you show it to me? Strong. Chen Yutian sighed, once more. Can I be strong? You're a late phase, and I'm only an early phase. How am I supposed to be strong? Didn't you send me flying with one kick? Lingshan shook her head at Yutian's silence. Yutian was weaker than her, but he didn't have the heart to be strong. He didn't even dare think about it. Lingshan couldn't accept this kind of personality at all. Even if she did, she'd probably be laughed at when she brought him back to the songhouse. People who didn't know better would think that she'd found a man who married into her family. If it were Lin Yi, he'd probably explode already. But if it were Lin Yi, would she dare ask him a stupid question like, can you beat me? It seemed like she didn't dare to. Lin Yi would definitely return the Miss Braindead nickname to her. Lingshan felt wronged in her heart. She was such a strong person. How could she not have any temper after being stepped on by Lin Yi? Forget it. She still needed him to solve the case. Lingshan comforted herself. Jiang Wen looked at Lingshan and Yutian, who suddenly appeared in the ward. His heart was filled with despair. It seemed like the police outside didn't lie to him. The kidney trafficking organization was really done for. Otherwise, Lingshan wouldn't be standing here unscathed. But luckily, Lingshan didn't know that he was the head of the kidney trafficking organization. Otherwise, he wouldn't be lying in the hospital now. Jiang Wen, what happened to you? Why did you encounter something like this? Chen Yutian felt that this was unbelievable. The kidney trafficking organization wouldn't choose a young master like Jiang Wen who drove a sports car when they chose their target, right? Weren't they afraid that things would get out of hand? Chapter 697. The Urge to Die, I See. Yutian started to sympathize with Jiang Wen. His relationship failed, and his kidney was cut off. One could imagine the pain in his heart. He turned to Lingshan. Did you catch the culprit? The mastermind, the tattooed guy, has been caught, but the surgeon committed suicide, Lingshan said faintly. I wonder if there's any hidden profit chain behind this criminal organization? The police are investigating further. What Lingshan said was information that could be obtained from the official channels. However, Jiang Wen was lying in the hospital room, so naturally, he didn't know much about these things. When he heard that the tattooed guy had been arrested and that the main surgeon had committed suicide, he felt dizzy. His own kidney trafficking company. The surgeon committed suicide. What was he going to do? He was still hoping that the surgeon could get his kidney back. Now it was all over. Even if he found Zhong Pingliang, he wouldn't be able to find the surgeon to do it. Which hospital would do it for him? He couldn't tell the police, otherwise, the police would ask him how he knew that Zhong Pingliang's kidney was his. Yu Tian saw Jiang Wen's unnatural expression and thought that he was reminiscing about the past. He quickly comforted him. Jiang Wen bro, I'm sorry for your loss. Luckily, you only lost one kidney. Your life is not in danger. Think of a way to get a kidney transplant in the future. Jiang Wen could only smile bitterly. It wasn't just because he lost one kidney. He knew where his kidney was, but he couldn't get it back. This was the most painful thing. Plus, his kidney trafficking organization was his blood, sweat, and tears. Jiang Wen, don't worry. The police will give you justice. The criminal has been arrested. We hope that you can testify in court. Lingshan came as a representative of the police. She didn't like Jiang Wen, but he was still a victim. There were some things she had to say. All right. Jiang Wen's heart was bleeding. He had to testify against his own criminal organization? Was there anyone else like her in the world? But Jiang Wen didn't have a choice. He was afraid that Lingshan would suspect him, so he could only nod reluctantly. I'll be a witness. Jiang Wen bro. How about this? I'll call little Shu and see if she's with Yao Yao. I'll ask them to come and see you too. Chen Yutian saw how pitiful Jiang Wen was and felt pity for him. He thought that if Meng Yao came to visit Jiang Wen, maybe Jiang Wen would feel better. Jiang Wen was overjoyed. Chen Yutian knew him the best. As expected of one of the 4 young masters of Mount Songshan. You really are good to me. Meng Yao would sympathize with me if she saw me like this, wouldn't she? At that time, the girl's maternal instincts would come out, and I might even have a chance. Meng Yao may be cold, but she had a kind heart. Jiang Wen knew that. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked Lin Yi to save him at the amusement park. As a result, Jiang Wen approved of Meng Yao coming to see him, but he was a little wary of Yushu. That girl was a pure troublemaker who loved to see the world in chaos. He reckoned that she'd probably clap her hands if she saw him in this state, wishing that he'd die. But what Yushu thought had nothing to do with Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen didn't like Yushu, and he didn't want a girl like her even if she threw herself at him. He wouldn't be able to live if he brought her back home. She might even castrate him in the middle of the night. So Jiang Wen always kept his distance from Yushu. He didn't want to mess with her, but he couldn't offend her either. After all, she was Meng Yao's best friend. Then I'll have to trouble you. Yutian bro, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Jiang Wen was touched. Yu Tian cared for him like this even when he was injured. It made him feel good. Yu Tian called his sister, Yushu. Yushu had just returned to the ward with Meng Yao. She held Meng Yao's hand and looked at the serious expression on Meng Yao's face. She giggled. Yao Yao sis, what's wrong? Why do you look so unhappy? You should be very happy that you escaped death. You should be very happy that you survived. Look at me. Every time I play Super Mario Bros. Wii with you, I'll cheer when I meet a boss and survive. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. How can this be the same as a game? Besides, you're happy that Lin Yi saw you? Oh, but I'm not unhappy. So, what if he saw me? I'll marry him in the future. Won't he see me too? When we played 3P together, we saw everything. Yushu counted with her fingers. It's just a little earlier. So what? Meng Yao rolled her eyes. She realized that she couldn't communicate with Yushu. She didn't know if this girl had the concept of chastity in her head. She acted like nothing had happened after Lin Yi saw her. She was living happily every day, happier than anyone else. Truly, fortune favors fools. Fools wouldn't think so much about gains and losses. When did I say I'm marrying him? Meng Yao humphed. No, you and Lin Yi have to keep it a secret, or else I won't be able to get married in the future. Oh, don't worry, only the 3 of us will know. We won't let outsiders see or talk about our things. Yushu nodded. Meng Yao was speechless. She realized that Yushu didn't seem to understand her at all. Or was she purposely not understanding? Meng Yao suddenly realized that her best friend's brain was very strong. When she wanted to understand, her reaction was faster than anyone else's, but when she didn't want to understand, it was useless no matter what you said. Don't talk about this anymore. Meng Yao could only take a step back and warned Yushu. Okay, I won't talk about it anymore. Yushu nodded. Yao sis. What are we going to do now? It's so boring in the hospital. I don't want to stay here anymore. The smell of disinfectant is making me dizzy. Chapter 698. Super good news. Where do you want to go? Mengyao asked. Why don't we go home and play hide and seek? Yushu suggested. Hide and seek. Are you in heat? Do you want to be sandwiched by the fence again and let Linny touch your boobs? Mengyao rejected Yushu's suggestion. There was only so much space in the house. It was fine to play hide and seek occasionally, but it was boring to play it often. All right. What do you want to play then? Yushu changed the topic, not even blushing as if Mengyao wasn't talking about her at all. How would I know? Why don't we go home and play video games? Mengyao wanted to play games after hearing Yushu talking about video games. Okay. Yushu nodded. She liked to play anything. As they were talking, Yushu's phone rang. Yushu looked at the caller ID and saw that it was her brother. She quickly picked it up. Bro. Shu, where are you? Yu Tian's voice came from the other side of the phone. Yao sis and I are at the hospital. Bro, what's up? Yushu said. If you're free, come and play games with us. Yu Tian was taken aback when Yushu said that they were in the hospital. He thought that they were sick, but since Yushu said that they were playing games, it was obvious that they were fine. He didn't ask further and said, Jiangwen drank last night and fell asleep on the road. One of his kidneys was cut off by the criminals. If you and Yao are free, why don't you come and see him? We're at Songshan's First People's Hospital, 3rd Inpatient Department, room 218. Holy shit. Yushu's eyes widened and she clapped her hands. Yao sis, let me tell you some super good news. Jiangwen's kidney was cut off, just like Zhong Pingliang. Your pursuers are so pitiful. All of them had their kidneys cut off. Yu Tian was speechless. This girl of his was too fierce. Even if she didn't like Jiangwen, she didn't have to cheer like that, right? If Jiangwen heard it, wouldn't he be pissed to death? Luckily, he was far away and Jiangwen couldn't hear the conversation. Jiangwen? His kidney was removed? Mengyao paused. She didn't look as happy as Yushu, but she didn't look sad, either. Jiangwen and her were drifting apart, and they weren't the big brother next door anymore. Mengyao shook her head. As expected, people couldn't go back to the past when they grew up. Shu, you and Yaya should come and take a look, right? No matter what, Jiangwen is a friend from the past. We have a good relationship. Yu Tian said. Oh, okay. Yao, and I don't have anything to do anymore. We can go visit him. It'll be fun. Yushu agreed after some thought. Chun Yu Tian didn't know what to say. Fun? Jiangwen losing one of his kidneys? Was that fun? However, Chun Yu Tian couldn't do anything about this weird sister of his. The old man spoiled her and treated her like the treasure of the family. From a certain angle, his sister was indeed very cute. Yao sis, we have a place to play now. Let's go visit Jiangwen in the hospital. His kidney was cut off. It's so fun. Yushu hung up and said to Mengyao, do you think it was Shield Bro who did it?
Lin Yi?
Mengyao was startled. Could it be Lin Yi? Why did Lin Yi cut off Jiangwen's kidney? Was it because Jiangwen wanted to chase her and confess to her during dinner yesterday? It didn't seem possible. Lin Yi didn't even like her. Why would he cut off Jiangwen's kidney? It might be possible if she ordered him to do it, but she didn't order him to do it. Mengyao and Yushu told Pingzhan that they were going to visit Jiangwen in Songshan's Songshan First Hospital. Pingzhan was worried about the two of them going out alone. After all, the coma incident had just ended. Pingzhan was like a frightened bird. He asked Faubert to send them off. In the car, Yushu called Lin Yi. Shield Bro, where are you? I'm at Songshan's Songshan First Hospital. Lin Yi picked up Yushu's call in front of Tang Yun. Since Tang Yun already knew about his relationship with Mengyao and Yushu, there was no need to hide it anymore. Oh, that's perfect. Yao and I are going to visit Jiangwen at Songshan's Songshan First Hospital. You can come with us. Yushu said happily when she heard that Lin Yi was going to Songshan First Hospital. Visit Jiangwen? Lin Yi was startled. He thought that this kid's kidney was cut off. Didn't that mean that his kidney was given to Zhong Pingliang? Would that be a match? Yeah, Jiang Wen's kidney was cut off, Yushu said happily. Come and protect us. What if Jiang Wen goes crazy and beats me and Yaoraos us up? Lin Yi was speechless. Jiang Wen's kidney was cut off. How would he have the strength to beat people up? Beat them up? However, Lin Yi knew Yushu's personality. He said, okay, call me when you arrive. Okay, we'll be there soon. Just wait for us at the entrance of the third hospital. Yushu said. After Yushu hung up, Lin Yi saw Tang Yun looking at him. He smiled. Meng Yao and Yushu are here. They're going to visit a patient. They asked me to go with them. Oh, go then. There's nothing else here. Tang Yun wanted to go shopping with Lin Yi after leaving the hospital. The weather was getting hotter and hotter. Tang Yun wanted to buy a pair of shorts. She wanted to go to the night market, but she couldn't do that today. If there's something else, I'll come back later. Lin Yi saw that Tang Yun wanted to say something, but stopped. It seemed like she had something to tell him. Okay, let's see the time, Tang Yun said happily. Lin Yi said goodbye to Mr. Tang and Mrs. Tang before leaving for the third hospital department. He saw Li Fu's Bentley at the bottom of the building, arriving just in time to see Li Fu's car. Meng Yao and Yushu got off the car hand in hand. Yushu waved at Lin Yi. Miss only glanced at Lin Yi indifferently as a greeting. Lin Yi knew what Miss was thinking. He didn't want to argue with her. He smiled. You're visiting a patient. Don't you want to bring some gifts? Oh, we need to celebrate. I'll go buy some firecrackers. Yushu thought for a while and said seriously. Chapter 699. Angered again, you're right. Let's have a big meal to celebrate later? Yushu nodded, giving up on the idea of buying firecrackers. The three of them entered the first inpatient apartment and went up to the second floor. When they arrived at the door of room 218, they saw a policeman patrolling nearby. Seeing that the three of them were about to enter the ward, someone immediately stopped them. May I ask who you're looking for? Yu Tian came with Ling Shan, so naturally. The police let them pass. But Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu, although they looked harmless, couldn't be taken lightly. We're here to see Jiang Wen, Lin Yi said. He didn't expect Jiang Wen to be protected by the police. Jiang Wen is one of the victims we're protecting. May I know your names? I'll have to ask for the names of the victims and their superior, the police officer said. Who's your superior? Ling Shan? Or Lu Wangli? Lin Yi didn't expect it to be so troublesome to look after Jiang Wen. You know Captain Song and Captain Lu? The police officer paused. Captain Song is inside. Wait a moment, I'll go get her. After hearing that Lin Yi not only knew Lu Wangli but also Ling Shan, the police officer didn't dare to delay and went into the room after informing Lin Yi. Captain Song, someone wants to see Jiang Wen and he knows you. The police officer reported. Knows me? Ling Shan paused. I'll go take a look. Ling Shan saw Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu when she came out of the room. Ling Shan was curious about Lin Yi visiting Jiang Wen. Did Lin Yi know Jiang Wen? Lin Yi. Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi, her expression a little unnatural because Meng Yao and Yushu were there too. But she recovered quickly. What was there to be afraid of? They weren't Lin Yi's girlfriends. What did her relationship with Lin Yi have to do with them? Why is Jiang Wen being protected? Lin Yi asked. He's one of the victims of the kidney trafficking organization. We need him to testify, Ling Shan said. Do you know him? Yes, but not close, Lin Yi shrugged, finding it funny. Jiang Wen testifying against his own organization? Although Jiang Wen was the mastermind, all the evidence had been erased. Lin Yi didn't want to waste time talking to Ling Shan. Ling Shan nodded and followed Lin Yi into the room. She looked like a bully, not daring to pass Lin Yi. No one else noticed this detail, not even Meng Yao and Yushu. Yu Tian, on the other hand, didn't think much about it. He didn't believe that Ling Shan would get bullied at all. Shu, Yao Yao, Lin Yi, you're here. Yu Tian said Lin Yi's name unnaturally. He respected Lin Yi very much. He called Lin Yi Instructor Eagle instead of Lin Yi's name. Yushu looked at her brother, and then at Ling Shan. Her face fell. She couldn't understand why her brother was so stubborn. Lingshan obviously didn't like him, and he was still chasing after her. How embarrassing! Lingshan, this fox, was also a troublemaker. She should be taught a lesson. Yushu's eyes lit up. She had an idea. Jiang Wen was overjoyed to see Meng Yao. Yushu, on the other hand, was automatically ignored by Jiang Wen. But when he saw Lin Yi behind Yushu, his face froze up. Lin Yi knew that he was the head of the kidney trafficking organization. He was going to remove Lin Yi's kidney this morning, but it turned out to be him. However, Lin Yi hated him. Could it be that Lin Yi saved Lingshan? With that thought, Jiang Wen's hatred for Lin Yi grew even thicker, and so did his fear. He was afraid that Lin Yi would reveal his identity to Lingshan, and he was angry that Lin Yi ruined his hard work. However, he didn't consider that if he didn't capture Lin Yi and Lingshan, his kidney trafficking organization wouldn't be destroyed so quickly. Jiang Wen thought about it carefully and let out a breath of relief. So what if Lin Yi told Lingshan? There was no evidence. The tattooed guy would definitely hold on and wouldn't sell him out. The only person who knew his identity, Dr. Wang, had committed suicide. Who else could prove that he was the head of the kidney trafficking organization? Even if he refused to admit it, Lingshan wouldn't be able to do anything to him. People from House and weren't easy to bully. He believed that Lingshan wouldn't dare to do anything to him without evidence. Jiang Wen felt relieved after thinking about this. He pretended to be fake and said, "Lenny bro, you are here too? You still remember me at this time? I will treat you to a meal when I recover." Jiang Wen had to do this to maintain his image in Meng Yao's heart. Otherwise, Meng Yao would think that he was a narrow-minded person. "Oh, Jiang Wen bro, you lost a kidney. Can you still recover? You won't die, right?" Yushu didn't wait for Lin Yi to speak and spoke first.
Wah.
Jiang Wen was stunned. His face turned red from Yushu's words. He cursed in his heart. Mother Cur, would you die if you lost a kidney? Can't you not piss me off? However, Jiang Wen didn't dare to scold Yushu. He didn't dare to offend House Jin. Plus, Chen Yutian was in the ward. Plus, Yushu was Meng Yao's best friend. If he scolded her, he wouldn't be able to recover. "Shu, don't talk nonsense. Losing a kidney will only affect your health. You won't die." Chen Yutian couldn't do anything to his sister. He could only explain to her. "Oh, I see. I think so too." Yushu nodded. "I heard that a man is not a complete man if he lost a kidney. Jiang Wen bro, your dream of having sex with Yao Yao sis is gone. Plus, you won't be able to have a threesome."
What?
Jiang Wen's face turned purple. He didn't expect Yushu to be so evil. She touched his sore spot. He shouldn't have let her come. Did she really want to embarrass him in front of Meng Yao? "Shu, don't talk nonsense. Even if he is a man, I won't have sex with him." Meng Yao frowned. She felt that Yushu was going overboard. It was as if she agreed to have sex with Jiang Wen. Meng Yao's words, however, had a different meaning to them. Jiang Wen felt a chill run down his spine. Even if he was a man, was he not a man now? Chapter 700. Lingshan frowned. Lingshan frowned. "Meng Yao, Yushu, please watch your words. Jiang Wen's a victim, and his injuries and emotions aren't stable yet. Please don't provoke him." "How did I provoke him?" Yushu didn't have a good impression of Lingshan. "I'm just stating the truth. My brother said that losing a kidney will affect his health." Yutian smiled bitterly as he lowered his head. On one side was his sister, and on the other side was Lingshan. Who should he help? Who could he help?
How?
Lingshan glared at Yutian. "What are you standing there for? Go get the doctor." "I'll go right now." Yutian nodded and went to get the doctor. Yushu was about to explode. What was wrong with this brother of hers? He was like a mouse in front of a cat in front of Lingshan, so careful and careful. Why was he so soft? She was his sister, and he didn't even care about what that fox said. He even went to get the doctor for Lingshan? "Bro, you can't go." Yushu stood in front of Yutian, staring at him angrily. "She insulted your sister. How could you let her bully me like that?" "Shu." Yutian didn't know what to do. Lingshan wasn't bullying Yushu, was she? She was just being strict with her words. As expected, he's unreliable. Yushu was disappointed to see Yutian in a dilemma. Shield Bro was still the best. He would always help her and stand by her side. Yes, she would only be good to Shield Bro in this life. Even her own brother couldn't do it. Lin Yi was surprised by Yutian's actions, but from Yushu's reaction, he could guess what was going on. Yutian was Lingshan's pursuer? Someone was pursuing Miss Song? Shoo, I'll go get the doctor. Yutian saw the disappointment in his sister's eyes, but there was nothing he could do. Lingshan was the one who told him to get the doctor, and Jiang Wen was unconscious. He didn't want anything to happen to him. No, Yushu disagreed. This wasn't as simple as finding a doctor anymore. This was a battle between Lingshan and Lingshan. Yushu really didn't understand. Why was her brother like Lingshan so much? Her brother was very outstanding, okay? Although he wasn't as good as Shield Bro, he was still the eldest grandson of the Qin family. What kind of girl couldn't he get? Yushu and Lingshan had always been on good terms since they were young, and that was why Yushu was targeting Lingshan. Mengyao couldn't stand it anymore, but she knew Shu's personality. She might look like a fool, but when she was really stubborn, no one could stop her. This was the reason why Shu stayed by her side when she fainted. Mengyao was very touched. Yushu's words and suggestions sometimes made her feel awkward, like mistresses and threesomes, but Mengyao knew that Yushu really didn't want to be separated from her. She wanted to be with her forever. Lin Yi didn't expect Yushu and Lingshan to fight like this, but Yutian was indeed a little weak, and Lin Yi couldn't stand it anymore. He said faintly, "No need, Jiang Wen won't die for now." Yutian opened his mouth, but he could only bite the bullet and say, "Okay." Lin Yi was the person Yutian admired the most, and it was because of Lin Yi that he changed. Otherwise, he would still be a spoiled brat, hanging out with Jiang Wen every day. Lingshan, on the other hand, looked at Yutian surprised. Lin Yi's words worked this well? Why did Yutian agree to it so easily? Lingshan felt like she had lost face, and Yutian didn't listen to her with her strong personality, but when she remembered that it was Lin Yi, she calmed down immediately. She could only blame her bad luck for being bullied by Lin Yi. Would she dare to complain? She didn't at the moment, but today, Yutian made Lingshan look at him in a different light. For the first time, he was strong. It was a pity that Lingshan didn't like him. Changing his personality wouldn't change her feelings. Yushu paused, looking at her brother in disbelief. He didn't even listen to her, but he listened to Shield Bro. Yutian, on the other hand, was surprised. Lingshan didn't insist on going to the doctor anymore. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. He walked to Jiang Wen's bedside and pressed on his head a couple of times. Jiang Wen woke up immediately. Jiang Wen jumped when he saw Lin Yi pressing on his head. Was Lin Yi going to kill him? But then he remembered that Lingshan and Yutian were here. Lin Yi wouldn't dare to kill him. Of course, if only Lin Yi and Yushu were here, Jiang Wen wouldn't feel at ease. That girl would definitely work with Lin Yi to kill him. It was too scary. "Thank you, Brother Lin. My body isn't too good and I fainted." Jiang Wen thanked Lin Yi. "You're welcome. We're even now," Lin Yi said faintly. Jiang Wen paused, but he understood what Lin Yi meant. Lin Yi was referring to how he knocked him out before and how he woke him up now. Of course, only Jiang Wen could understand what he was saying. "Oh, Jiang Wen bro, you're awake." Yushu looked at Jiang Wen apologetically. "I'm sorry, I won't talk nonsense again." "Haha, it's fine." What else could Jiang Wen say? He didn't want to argue with Yushu. He couldn't afford to. His life would be shortened if he did. "Oh, let's take a photo with Jiang Wen bro. Losing a kidney is something to remember. This is the only time he'll ever lose one in his life. He can't lose one in the future." Yushu clapped her hands and suggested. Jiang Wen almost fainted again when he heard Yushu's words. What was so memorable about losing a kidney? Only once in his life. Wasn't that obvious? Wouldn't he die if he lost one more time? But Yushu wasn't as sharp this time, so he couldn't argue back. He could only pretend that he didn't understand what Yushu was trying to say. Plus, he was very willing to take a photo with Meng Yao. Chapter 701. We'll be missed. Oh, it's time to take a picture. Yao Yao, come quick. Yushu waved at Meng Yao. Meng Yao didn't want to join in the fun, but seeing how excited Yushu was, she didn't object. She walked over and stood beside Yushu, not standing right next to Jiang Wen. This disappointed Jiang Wen a little. Bro, you come too? Yushu waved and turned to Lin Yi. Shield bro. Stand behind me and Yao Yao to protect us. I'll take the picture for you guys, I'll pass. Lin Yi felt that there was no point in taking pictures with Jiang Wen. No, there's only Ling Shan sis here. She's the only outsider here. Come quick. Yushu started targeting Ling Shan again. Ling Shan was about to say, why should I take a picture for you guys? She was a police, she had no obligation to take a family picture for you guys. Plus, so what if she was an outsider? Who would want to be part of your family? But Ling Shan didn't get to say anything before Lin Yi spoke up.
Ha, all right.
With that, he walked over and stood behind Yushu and Meng Yao. This put Ling Shan in a difficult situation. Lin Yi was already there. Should she take the picture or not? I don't have a camera. Ling Shan felt like a punching bag. How embarrassing. Ling Shan sis, you have a phone. The resolution is really high. The beach castle you took for me last time was really pretty. Yushu didn't want to let Ling Shan go. She wanted Ling Shan to lose face in front of her brother. She wanted her brother to see that the arrogant girl he liked was just a punching bag in front of Shield Bro. Ling Shan was furious. If it weren't for Lin Yi, she wouldn't have gone to take pictures of that beach castle. Was she an idiot? Oh, it seemed like Lin Yi thought she was an idiot. No obligation. Ling Shan said coldly. All right, Ling Shan, hurry up and take one. Lin Yi frowned. This Ling Shan was too much. There were so many people standing here and she was still trying to make excuses? Even if she had some conflict with Yushu, he was still standing here. Ling Shan froze upon hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi was still standing there. Wouldn't Lin Yi be mad if she didn't film it? She remembered that Lin Yi had called her song Ling Shan and not dumb girl, and that made her a little happier. Luckily, Lin Yi had given her face in front of all these people. Otherwise, she'd lose all her face if he'd called her dumb girl.
All right.
Ling Shan quickly took out her phone to take a picture, thinking that she'd almost pissed off Lin Yi today because of Yushu. Yushu was very pleased with herself. It seemed that Ling Shan was very afraid of Shield Bro. Every time Shield Bro spoke, Ling Shan would listen to him. Yu Tian, on the other hand, was even more surprised. Ling Shan didn't say anything when Lin Yi stopped him from going to the doctor, and Yu Tian thought that Ling Shan and Lin Yi didn't know each other well, so she didn't want to refute Lin Yi's words. But now, it seemed like that wasn't the case at all. Lin Yi's words seemed to be very effective on Ling Shan. As long as Lin Yi said it, Ling Shan would do it. Just what was their relationship? Was it a superior and a subordinate? Otherwise, with Ling Shan's personality, when had she ever been so easily bullied? Ling Shan took the picture and smiled as she passed the phone to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, what do you think? It's all right. Lin Yi nodded after taking a look. Then little dumb girl.
I'll send it to you when I get back.
Is it the same as last time? Ling Shan didn't pay attention and almost blurted out the words. She realized that she wasn't talking to Lin Yi in private and quickly changed her words.
All right.
Lin Yi was already used to Ling Shan's attitude, so he didn't think anything was wrong. But Yu Tian was shocked. Ling Shan's attitude could only be described as fawning. When had Ling Shan ever talked to a man in such a nice and friendly manner? She actually talked to Lin Yi in this tone? Yushu and Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't think much of it. They knew that Lin Yi was very strong, and Ling Shan even asked for help from Lin Yi. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, didn't expect Lin Yi and Ling Shan to be this close. If he knew this would happen, he would have let Ling Shan go, and things wouldn't have turned out like this. There was no point in staying here after the photo was taken. Yushu came here to mock Jiang Wen, and it was time to leave now that the fun was over. Yao Yao sis, let's go. We've already taken a souvenir, and we'll miss Jiang Wen bro. Yushu paused on purpose before continuing about the kidney. Jiang Wen was cursing Yushu in his heart. He wasn't dead yet. How could she miss him? He waited for a long time, and it turned out that she was missing the kidney. He knew that he was tricked by Yushu again. Lingshan controlled her emotions this time. With Lin Yi around, she decided to behave herself. It wouldn't be fun if Lin Yi got angry. Yu Tian could only smile bitterly at his sister. He couldn't control her. She had been like this since she was young. As for Lin Yi, although Yu Tian had many questions he wanted to ask, he knew that even if he asked, Lin Yi might not answer. Plus, Lin Yi had already said that he was just his sister's follower. His sister's follower? His sister was too amazing. Meng Yao and Yushu said goodbye to Yu Tian and left the room. Lin Yi, on the other hand, nodded to Yu Tian and Lingshan before leaving the room with Meng Yao and Yushu. As for Jiang Wen, Lin Yi completely ignored him. After leaving the room, Yushu couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed. Haha, I'm so happy. That fox Lingshan is completely suppressed by Shield Bro. Let's see if she can still pretend to be arrogant now. Ha ha ha. Yushu was really happy. She hated Lingshan ever since she was young. She thought that Lingshan stole her brother from her. But as she grew older, she realized that it was her brother who pursued Lingshan, and Lingshan didn't like her brother. In Yushu's young heart, she thought that her brother was the best boy in the world. Lingshan was blind to look down on her brother. Chapter 702. Chapter 702. The Miss Inner World Meow looked at Lin Yi faintly, not saying anything. She felt as if there was a barrier between her and Lin Yi, and there was an inexplicable feeling whenever she looked at Lin Yi. We have to have a big feast to celebrate today. Yushu seemed to be really happy. There are 3 big things happening today. First, we have to celebrate Yao Yao's coma. Shu. What did you say? Meng Yao almost fell down from her anger. Celebrate being poisoned? Was there something wrong with this Shu? Was she gloating? Oh, Yao Yao. Don't be mad. I'm not done yet. Yushu waved her hand, feeling wronged. What I meant was, we have to celebrate Yao Yao's coma. She's bound to be blessed after surviving a disaster. Meng Yao blushed. It seemed like she'd misunderstood Shu. She glared at her. Can't you make it clear? I did, but I was interrupted. Yushu said weakly. You're still talking? Meng Yao made a move to tear Yushu's mouth apart. Oh. Don't, I'm the mistress. I don't want to be like this. Yushu cried out. Then don't be the mistress. Meng Yao was just trying to scare her. She didn't really want to tear Yushu's mouth off, but she didn't expect Yushu to start talking nonsense again. I'll be the mistress, then, Yushu said after some thought. Suit yourself. Meng Yao rolled her eyes, not knowing what to say. Then I'll continue. This is the first thing. The second thing is that we have to celebrate Jiang Wen losing a kidney so that he can't bother Yao Yao anymore. Yushu said. Meng Yao and Jiang Wen were pretty close when they were young, and although they weren't that close anymore, she still felt some sympathy for Jiang Wen losing a kidney. It would be too much to celebrate, and so Meng Yao didn't support Shu's suggestion. The third thing is to embarrass Foxong. I'm so happy, Yushu said excitedly. So we have to go and celebrate. Meng Yao nodded. Escaping death was something to be thankful for. She looked at Lin Yi and asked faintly, Are you free? Lin Yi was slightly startled. How could the eldest miss speak to him in such a tone? It didn't look like it. In the past, they would always order him to take them out to eat without asking if he was free. Meng Yao's attitude made Lin Yi a little embarrassed. He wanted to go back to Tang Yun after visiting Jiang Wen, but it seemed like he could only accompany the miss for dinner. I originally asked Tang Yun to buy something, but I can cancel it, Lin Yi said. Let's ask her to come with us then, Meng Yao said after some hesitation. Ah. Lin Yi froze on the spot and looked at Meng Yao in disbelief. Wasn't the miss and Tang Yun never on good terms? Why was she bringing Tang Yun out to eat today? What did this mean? Why are you looking at me like that? Meng Yao frowned. She felt a little guilty being stared at by Lin Yi. In fact, she didn't like this feeling. Ever since Lin Yi saw her body and she peed on Lin Yi, Meng Yao instinctively felt guilty and shy in front of Lin Yi. She was no longer as arrogant and strong as before. She was the miss, his employer. How could she feel guilty in front of him? So Meng Yao tried to make her tone and attitude as cold as possible to cover up the nervousness in her heart. You want to treat hers? Lin Yi asked. Oh, Yao Yao sis finally wants to negotiate with Tang Yun. That's great. Yushu didn't know what Meng Yao was thinking. She cheered according to her own understanding. Negotiate. Lin Yi looked at Yushu. Was the miss going to have a showdown with Tang Yun? Lin Yi had a headache thinking about the scene during lunch. On one side was his employer, and on the other side was his girlfriend. The miss was a prideful person. She must have her face. Shu, what are you talking about? What judgment? Meng Yao glared at her. I just want to thank her. In fact, Meng Yao thought so too. When she was in the hospital, she heard Tang Yun calling Lin Yi. At that moment, she felt that Tang Yun was actually a good girl. She always appeared in front of her as a love rival. When her life was in danger, Tang Yun didn't want her to die and gloat. Instead, she asked Lin Yi to save her. Meng Yao was touched. She was really touched. The miss didn't lack money, but she lacked love. Although Pingzhan gave her enough fatherly love, he was too busy. No matter how much he loved Meng Yao, the time he could spend with her was limited. For a long time, the miss and Shu depended on each other. This caused the miss to have a cold personality. She would treat others well, because she was kind. She didn't say it out loud. When Lin Yi first came, the miss instinctively rejected him. She didn't understand Lin Yi. She didn't know Lin Yi's personality. With Meng Yao's closed personality, it was already the limit for her to accept Lin Yi living in the villa. But, as time went on, Meng Yao realized that Lin Yi was really, really good to her. So good that it was unbelievable. He would risk his life for her and accompany her to be a hostage. Meng Yao remembered this friendship deeply in her heart. But because of her personality, she couldn't say many words of gratitude. At home, Lin Yi often cooked for her and Shu. He took care of her and Shu like a big brother. It made Meng Yao feel warm and comfortable. Since young, no one had ever treated her so well. Meng Yao, who didn't have a mother's love, cherished this kind of relationship. No matter how good Pingzhan was to her, he couldn't cook for her every day. He couldn't take care of her every day. Even if Faubert came to deliver food every day, he would bring it back from a big restaurant. How could it be the same as cooking for her? And so, as Meng Yao slowly accepted Lin Yi's existence, she started to rely on him in a way that was hard to detect. It was as if Lin Yi was omnipotent, and no matter what happened, he would be able to solve it easily. Chapter 703. Protecting happiness, however, Tang Yun's appearance infuriated the miss. It was as if someone had taken away her most cherished possession. Meng Yao felt that Tang Yun had stolen Lin Yi. How could she just sit back and do nothing? She just had a warm feeling in the house. How could she let someone else take away her happiness? As for all the stuff about how Lin Yi couldn't see that there were pretty girls in the house, and how he went out to flirt with them, it was just an excuse. The real reason was that the miss had been lacking warmth since she was young. Meng Yao was like a safe, purposely hiding her feelings. She didn't want to admit that there was a warm feeling in the house with Lin Yi. This was the softness in the miss' heart, and she didn't want others to know. Although sometimes she felt that this Lin Yi was annoying, it felt good to live under the same roof as him. If it was possible, Meng Yao hoped that this kind of life could continue. However, Tang Yun's appearance brought Meng Yao back to reality from her dream. Her dreams were shattered in an instant. Yes, Lin Yi would leave the villa sooner or later and start his own life. He would have a girlfriend, and he would have his own family, but Meng Yao didn't think that this day would come so soon. So she was filled with hostility towards Tang Yun and wanted to chase her away from Lin Yi. She would never allow Tang Yun to destroy her warm home. She wanted Lin Yi to prepare breakfast for her and Shu every day. She wanted Lin Yi to be the first to appear when she and Shu were in trouble. So that night, when she saw Lin Yi injured, and when she saw Tang Yun, Meng Yao was furious.
Why?
Lin Yi was a member of the villa. Why would he get injured because of Tang Yun? And so, the first clash between Meng Yao and Tang Yun began. The Miss was furious, and without thinking, she declared war on Tang Yun. This declaration led to the second clash in the cafeteria at noon. However, Tang Yun's kindness woke Miss up in an instant. Yes, what did Tang Yun do wrong? Wasn't it Lin Yi who pursued her? How could he blame her? However, Meng Yao really didn't want her to take Lin Yi away from the villa. But after what happened today, after what he'd seen her naked body, and after she'd pissed all over him so awkwardly, could their relationship still be the same? Would he look down on her? Laugh at me? Even if he didn't, how could he face Lin Yi? Annoying, really annoying. Meng Yao felt like she was going to die from annoyance. She'd never been this annoyed in her entire life. So at this moment, Miss decided that she would treat Tang Yun to a meal to express her gratitude. No matter what, they didn't owe each other anymore. The Miss didn't want to owe anyone anything, especially Tang Yun. How she handled her relationship with Lin Yi was her own business. She didn't want to be held back by Tang Yun because she owed Tang Yun a favor. Miss was a smart person and naturally understood this. Miss's words made Lin Yi a little surprised. However, he still took out his phone and called Tang Yun. No matter what, Lin Yi also wanted to ease the relationship between Miss and Tang Yun. Otherwise, it would be troublesome for him to be stuck in the middle in the future. Lin Yi, have you settled the things on your side? Tang Yun was very happy after receiving Lin Yi's call. She had been waiting in the ward. She wanted to call Lin Yi to ask if he could come back at night, but she was afraid that it would affect Lin Yi's work and make things difficult for him.
So, she didn't call.
And it's done, Lin Yi said. I just left the inpatient department. Then, can you come back? Tang Yun hesitated and asked. Yao Yao said that she wants to treat you to a meal. Do you want to come? Lin Yi asked.
Meng Yao?
Treat me to a meal? Tang Yun was slightly stunned. She felt that it was a bit unbelievable. Why would Meng Yao treat her to a meal? Express your gratitude? Lin Yi said.
Ah?
Gratitude? Tang Yun understood immediately that Meng Yao was thanking her for calling Lin Yi and asking him to treat Meng Yao's illness. However, Tang Yun was still a little hostile towards the Miss, so she didn't want to go. I won't go, will I? It's not good, right? You don't want to come? Then forget it. Lin Yi also guessed what Tang Yun was thinking. She must still have some grudges with Mississippi. Meng Yao wanted to take the phone and talk to Tang Yun personally, but she couldn't lower her face. So, she gave Yushu a look, wanting her to say it for her. Yao Yao sis, look, Tang Yun doesn't dare to come, right? Yushu blinked her eyes and moved closer to Lin Yi's phone. Meng Yao was so angry that she started trembling. This Yushu was really pissing her off. She asked Yushu to invite Tang Yun for her, but she said this kind of thing? Wasn't this continuing to be Tang Yun's enemy? Tang Yun heard Yushu's words and panicked. Who said I don't dare to come? I'll go now. Needless to say, Yushu's provocation worked. No matter what, Tang Yun had already made her decision. Let's meet at the parking lot in front of the hospital, Lin Yi said. Okay, I'll go now. Tang Yun didn't want Yushu to look down on her, as if she was afraid of them. After hanging up, Yushu cheered before Lin Yi could say anything. Yao Yao sis, I'm amazing, right? I tricked Tang Yun to come with just one sentence. You tricked her to come, but I wanted to thank you. How can I thank you like this? Meng Yao shook her head helplessly. You can thank me when she comes. I just tricked her to come, Yushu said innocently. Meng Yao didn't want to argue with Yushu. It would only make her headache worse. She turned to Lin Yi. Did you drive a car? Shu's Beetle can barely fit 4 people, Lin Yi said. Oh, I'll sit in the back with Shu. Meng Yao nodded. Next time, drive the S5. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't dare to touch the Miss car before, but now it seemed that the Miss didn't care about this kind of thing at all. I want to sit in the front. I can point the way for Shield Bro. I know a super cool Western restaurant. Yushu didn't want to sit in the back. It was unknown if she did it on purpose, but Meng Yao and Tang Yun sat together. You can also point the way from the back, Meng Yao said. I'm nearsighted. I can't see the back clearly. Yushu shook her head. Chapter 704. Chapter 704, Jealous. Oh, I'm fine now. I can see clearly again. Yushu waved her hands. Mengyao glared at her. She'd been glaring at Yushu all day long, and her own eyes were starting to hurt. Lin Yi had long since gotten used to Mengyao and Yushu's bickering. The two had always been like this, bickering, but their relationship was frighteningly good. Mengyao pulled Yushu to the back seat. The beetle wasn't big, but it was more than enough to fit two petite girls. Yushu was a little uncomfortable. It's so cramped. I want to sit in the front. Your boobs are too big, so it's cramped. Just cut them off. Mengyao said, a little pissed off. Lin Yi wasn't in the car at the moment, leaning against the driver's door, waiting for Tang Yin. Mengyao dared to say something like that, but Lin Yi's hearing was better than a normal person's, and he heard everything clearly. Yao Yao, you're jealous of me. Yushu covered her boobs as she looked at Mengyao cautiously. Who cares? There's a lot of people with big boobs. It's not that rare anymore. Mengyao curled her lips. That's true. The main wife and the second wife have their own specialties. It's not good to have the same. It's not attractive. Yushu nodded in agreement. Mengyao didn't know how to respond to Yushu's words, so she kept quiet. Soon, Tang Yin walked out of the first ward and ran over to Lin Yi as soon as she saw him. Through the car window, Lin Yi could see that Tang Yin's body was well-proportioned. Her boobs weren't too big, but they weren't too small either. Her legs were straight and long, and her height wasn't any lower than Mengyao's. Her ponytail swayed in the car park under the light of the setting sun, giving off an indescribable feeling of youth. Mengyao had to admit that Tang Yin was perfect, a typical pretty girl. It made her a little jealous. There's two of us. We won't lose to her, Yushu said, seeing Tang Yin's unwillingness to lose. Mengyao was speechless. Was this a human wave tactic? A three-team tactic? Wouldn't it be embarrassing even if they won? Besides, when was she going to marry Lin Yi? She just felt that he took good care of her. Tang Yin paused when she saw the beetle behind Lin Yi. She had been in this car before, but it wasn't Lin Yi's car. It should be Mengyao or Yushu's. Did you wait for a long time? I'm sorry. Tang Yin fixed the bangs in front of her forehead and apologized. She couldn't lose her composure in front of Mengyao, otherwise she wouldn't have said that. It's fine, get in. Lin Yi opened the door for Tang Yin. Tang Yin saw Mengyao and Yushu sitting at the back and felt a little embarrassed. I don't think it's appropriate for me to sit at the front. Oh, that's great. I want to sit in the front. Let's swap seats. Yushu was happy to see that Tang Yin was still unwilling to sit in front. Shoo, shut up. Mengyao covered Yushu's mouth and glared at her before turning to Tang Yin. You're the guest. Of course you should sit in the front. In fact, Mengyao thought the same. The car was small, and it wasn't appropriate for Tang Yin to sit in the back. Tang Yin was a little embarrassed when she heard that Yushu wanted to sit in the front, but it wasn't appropriate for her to sit next to the Mississippi. She was in a dilemma. Tang Yin, don't listen to Shu's nonsense. She's always like that, talking nonsense every day. You'll get to know her after spending some time with her. Mengyao felt a little embarrassed when she saw that Tang Yin was in a dilemma. She did treat them to a meal to thank them, not to declare war. It was hard to say what would happen in the future, but she had to be more sincere today. Haha, okay. Tang Yin smiled, but in her heart, she thought, how could they interact more in the future? The luxurious life that Mengyao and Yushu lived was too far away from her. She still didn't have a place to buy her own house. Tang Yin got in the car, and Lin Yi followed. He started the car and asked, what do we want to eat? Where to? Listen to me, I know a super cool Western restaurant, Yushu said. Lin Yi saw that Mengyao didn't object, so he nodded.
Okay.
Turn left in front, then turn right again. Go to the high road, go to the upper bridge in the middle. Then go to the lower bridge on the right. Then, Yushu started to give directions. It was more efficient than a navigation system. Lin Yi followed Yushu's directions and stopped the car in front of a restaurant called Super Cool Couple Western Restaurant. Lin Yi was speechless. The name of this restaurant was as shocking as the awesome floating cloud bar. Were these two chain restaurants? Mengyao looked at the big signboard and didn't know what to say. It was indeed super cool. But was this a couple restaurant? Didn't that mean that only couples would come here? What was with the four of them coming here? Wasn't this combination a little weird? Shoo, is this a couple restaurant? Should we go somewhere else? Meng Yao frowned when she saw that all the people coming in and out of the restaurant were couples. We're already here. Why don't we go somewhere else? I'm starving. Yushu shook her head and urged. Meng Yao had no choice but to let Lin Yi park the car and get out. The doorman who parked the car at the entrance of the Western restaurant thought it was a couple getting off the Beetle, but he didn't expect four people to get off. He suddenly felt a little strange. Excuse me, are you all here to eat? Of course. Why would we park the car here if we're not here to eat? It's not fun here. Yushu thought that the valet was an idiot, asking stupid questions.
Oh.
Please come in. The valet shook his head. It couldn't be two couples, could it? Was one of them a lesbian? He thought evilly as he invited Lin Yi's group into the restaurant. A waiter came to serve them. Good evening. The manager walked over and greeted politely. Give me a private room. Yushu looked at the layout curiously. She had read about this restaurant on the internet before. It was said that this was a heaven for lovers. Yushu wanted to see it, but she didn't have any lovers. She heard that this place didn't accept couples, so she gave up on the idea. But today was her chance. One room. The lobby manager was slightly startled. One room for the four of you?
Yeah.
Yushu nodded. Chapter 705. We are a couple, yes. Give us a couple's room. Yushu said. I'm sorry, the four of you can only get 2 private rooms. One private room is not allowed. The lobby manager was a little impatient. Are these people looking for trouble? Couples' rooms and seats were charged by the hour. Wouldn't it be a loss for the restaurant to have 4 people in a room? Who said we aren't a couple? Yushu wasn't willing. We are a couple.
Huh. For people?
All of them are couples? The manager didn't believe Yushu's words. He was certain that these 4 were here to cause trouble. But they must be blind to mess around in Leibro's place. Were they tired of living? Yeah, I'm Shield Bro's second wife. Yao Yao Sis is Shield Bro's first wife. She's Shield Bro's girlfriend. Why can't we go to the same room? Yushu explained impatiently. Hey, Baldy, why are you wasting time? We're here to spend money. Why are you being so nosy? The manager heard Yushu's words and felt disdainful. Wasn't this bullsh**? First wife, second wife, and a girlfriend? Did she think he was an idiot? Plus, this girl dared to call him Baldy? He was a bald man, okay? It was very popular in the underworld. Spending money? I think you're here to mess around? The manager's attitude turned cold. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, leave. I don't care who sent you here. Tell him that Leibro's territory is not a place for others to mess around. Is there something wrong with you? What Leibro, Rain Bro, Lightning Bro? We're here to eat. Yushu thought that there must be something wrong with this Baldy's brain. The lobby manager sneered and said faintly, Our private room can only accommodate 2 people. If you're here to eat, I welcome you. Get 2 rooms.
Shoo.
Meng Yao frowned. She was a miss, a high and mighty existence. When had she ever been looked down upon like this? Especially today, they were here to invite Tang Yun. If they left just like that, what face would they have left? The problem was if this restaurant really had such a rule, then so be it. Meng Yao saw 3 people enter a room with her own eyes. She stopped Shu and told the manager, I saw 3 people enter a room just now. Did I see it wrong? It's in that box. With that, Meng Yao pointed at room 101, which wasn't far behind the manager. The manager laughed at Meng Yao's words. So you're here to cause trouble. Brother Lei, someone is King here. The 4 of them insisted on a private room. The person in room 101 was the owner of this dazzling couple restaurant, Brother Lei. He had indeed brought 2 girls into room 101 because he was preparing to have 3 batches. He was the boss here. Naturally, he could do whatever he wanted. Brother Lei had just entered the private room and was ready to fight when he heard the manager shout. He immediately frowned, pushed open the door of the private room and walked out. He said arrogantly, "What's going on?" "Fuck, who's F***king at this time? Do they want to die?" Lin Yi understood what was going on from the sidelines. So this labro from room 101 was the owner of this Western restaurant. Ming Yao's example was useless. He was the boss, so it didn't matter how many people he brought. However, the restaurant's rule was that only couples could enter a room. This was one of the ways the restaurant made money. Otherwise, the restaurant wouldn't be able to make so much money if a large group of people went to a room. The interior design of this restaurant was very high-end. They were relying on the room fees to make money. Usually, couples would go to a room, eat and drink red wine. In this romantic environment, it was inevitable that they would think about sex after they were full and do something they loved to do. This way, unless it was a quick shooter, it would take a long time. Naturally, they would earn money from the room fees. But if a large group of people went to a room, what else could happen? If they left after eating, how would the restaurant make money? The prices of the dishes here were basically mediocre and not profitable. What they relied on were some attractive decorations and atmosphere. Lin Yi knew these things just by looking at the price list at the door. So it was reasonable that the manager wasn't willing. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with this. Although this restaurant's operation was a bit unorthodox, they were willing to operate it this way. The Industry and Commerce Bureau didn't find trouble with them. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't poke his nose into other people's business. Yao, Shu, let's go. Since this restaurant doesn't work, let's go to another one. Lin Yi didn't want to waste his breath here. He knew that Meng Yao was afraid of losing face, so he took the initiative to leave. Meng Yao heard Lin Yi's words and didn't insist anymore. After all, Lin Yi was the one who suggested leaving first. She didn't have to lose face. She nodded and said, "All right, let's go to another one." Seriously, you're crazy to not do business when there's a chance. Yushu wanted to see the room. She heard that there were sex toys for couples. Yushu was very curious, but it seemed like she couldn't do it today. Labro was originally unhappy that he was interrupted when he was about to play with women. But when he saw Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yun, his eyes almost popped out. No way? They were the best, and there were 3 of them at once. Brother Lei had played with quite a number of women. He ran a Western restaurant and made a lot of money every day. Moreover, he had a cousin who was doing well, so he was rich and arrogant. Naturally, he threatened and tricked pretty girls and got his hands on quite a number of them. But Labro hadn't played with the 3 in front of him before. He had seen pretty girls like these 3, but they were all experienced men. They didn't look innocent at all. Labro didn't have a good time playing with them. But the girls in front of him looked very innocent. They might even be virgins. Labro wouldn't let them slip away in front of him. What's their background? Labro whispered to Ma Bailan. 4 of them. They came in a beetle. The man is driving, Marbalin replied in a low voice. Chapter 706. Can end while driving a beetle with 1 girl was considered flashy, but 3 was a little shabby. He might as well drive a hatchback. And these 3 girls were squeezed in the same car with him. They were obviously inexperienced. Who else would squeeze in a car like that? It's my honor that these 3 beauties are here to eat. Bailan, how can you shut them out? Labro pretended to be angry as he scolded the manager. Ma Bailan paused and understood what Labro meant. Labro probably had his eyes on these 3 girls. These 3 girls were really pretty, but they were unlucky enough to come to Labro's territory and act arrogantly. Wasn't that like sending sheep into a tiger's mouth? I'm sorry, Labro. Ma Bailan quickly apologized. He purposely made himself look lowly to highlight Labro's mighty image. 3 beauties. Please come in. Bailan, hurry up and prepare a room. Labro gave him a look. No need. We won't be eating here. Meng Yao felt uncomfortable under Labro's perverted gaze. She pulled Yushu's hand and prepared to leave. Tang Yin didn't say anything. She didn't need to say anything with Lin Yi here. She knew that Lin Yi wouldn't let anyone bully her. Haha, since you're here, let's eat here. How about I personally toast and apologize to you guys later? Labro looked at Meng Yao with a smile. If you guys are still breathing, I'll pay for everything you spend today free of charge. Labro wanted to keep Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yun here. As for Lin Yi, he didn't care about him at all. He didn't think that Lin Yi had a deep relationship with these three girls. These three girls were obviously prostitutes, so Labro guessed that Lin Yi was either a normal friend or a pervert like him who had ulterior motives towards these three girls. Oh, if that's the case, Yao Yao sis, let's do it here? Yushu was tempted. She wanted to see the room in this Western restaurant. Are there any legendary sex toys inside? Meng Yao hesitated for a moment, but didn't insist after seeing how much Yushu wanted to stay. All right, but we'll pay for the meal and the room. I don't mind if you want to double it. Meng Yao didn't want to owe Labro any favors, so she was willing to pay double the price. Don't you think it's a loss to have 4 people in a room? Then you can count it as double.
Oh.
That's great. Seeing that Meng Yao had agreed, Yushu pulled Meng Yao with her, eager to walk inside. Lin Yi and Tang Yun followed behind them. In front of Miss, Lin Yi was too embarrassed to hold Tang Yun's hand. Wait, you can't go in. Under Brother Lei's signal, Ma Bailan reached out and blocked Lin Yi from going in. Lin Yi frowned slightly. It seemed like Lei Bro and Ma Bailan had decided to make a big deal out of this. Lin Yi stopped, and so did Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yun. Why would they go if Lin Yi couldn't go in? Why don't you let him in? Meng Yao frowned as well. Are you going back on your words? I only said to let the 3 beauties in, but I didn't say anything about letting this kid in. Lei Bro looked at Lin Yi in disdain and said to the 3, ignore him. Please come in. We're not eating anymore. Meng Yao was furious. This guy didn't let Lin Yi in? What was the point of eating then? Meng Yao suppressed her anger. She didn't want Tang Yun to see how unruly her miss was. She said faintly, let's go, Shu. Oh. Yushu nodded obediently this time. What was the point of going to the room if she didn't let Shield Bro in? Even if there were sex toys, who would she play with? Therefore, she had lost interest in it. Tang Yun naturally followed Lin Yi. Why would she come if Lin Yi couldn't come in? She turned around and wanted to leave too. What's wrong? You don't want to do me the honor? Labro felt that he had miscalculated. He didn't expect these 3 beauties to value Lin Yi so much. Before, Labro didn't think that Lin Yi was important. He thought that he was just a rich guy, but now it seemed like that wasn't the case. If he knew this would happen, he would have let Lin Yi in as well. He would have thought of a way to send Lin Yi away. But now, he had already said it. If he let Lin Yi in as well, wouldn't it make him look weak? He was planning to hit on girls. How could he lower his head? Labro saw that using tricks didn't work, so he had to use force. He had his eyes on these 3 beauties. He couldn't let them go.
Move.
We don't want to eat anymore. Meng Yao had Lin Yi with her, so she wasn't afraid of these people. Do you think that this Western restaurant belongs to your family? Ma Bailan also understood the boss's intention at this moment. Since the soft approach didn't work, he directly used the hard approach. Naturally, Ma Bailan arrogantly blocked the 3's path. Yao Yao sis, leave it to me. Yushu saw that the conflict had escalated and immediately got excited. She let go of Meng Yao's hand and rushed towards Ma Bailan. Ma Bailan was stunned. He didn't know what Yushu was going to do. In the end, before he could figure out what was going on, a tragedy happened. Yushu's foot landed on Ma Bailan's crotch, and the man's eyes rolled back with a grunt as he crouched on the ground, holding his crotch as beads of sweat dripped down his forehead. Oh yeah, Yushu shouted happily. She made a victory sign with her finger. Yao Yao sis, I actually hit him in 1 hit. He's even weaker than a shark. Yushu had always been fearless. She dared to fight zombies and sharks, let alone a manager like Ma Bailan. But she didn't expect Ma Bailan to be so weak. 1 kick, and he couldn't get up. In fact, Ma Bailan wasn't weak. He didn't have any defense at all, because Ma Bailan didn't think that Yushu could do anything to him. Imagine a little girl with a baby face running towards you. What would your first thought be? Who would think that she would use a move like the climax kick? Lin Yi shrugged. It seemed like this wouldn't end well. Lin Yi wasn't a person who liked to bully others. But if someone bullied him, he wouldn't just ignore it. Chapter 707. I'm not ready to leave, but this lay bro, who came out later, obviously made things complicated. Lin Yi knew what he was thinking. He wanted to keep the three of them here because of their lust. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't let him get away with it. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that Yushu made a move first. Laybro was also shocked by the scene. He didn't expect a young girl like Yushu to be able to use such a vicious move. It was a direct hit, turning Ma Bailan into a prawn. Ma Bailan was probably in a lot of pain now. It was hard to say if he would ever be able to have sex again. Laybro's face darkened immediately. Good, very good. It's spicy, but I like it. Laybro looked at Yushu with a lustful desire to conquer her. Let's call it a day. I'm in a good mood. I don't want to do anything to you, and I won't come here again. What do you think? Lin Yi looked at Laybro and said faintly. His eyes looked like he was giving charity. In fact, in Lin Yi's eyes, he was really nothing. Since Yushu had taught them a lesson, Lin Yi didn't want to mess with them anymore. They were supposed to celebrate today, and Lin Yi didn't want to spoil the mood because of these small fries.
Wah.
Laybro paused, then laughed out loud. He looked at Lin Yi as if he was looking at an idiot. Ma Bailan, who was crouching on the ground, couldn't help but laugh as well. It was a happy laugh, as if he had forgotten the pain in his body. Shield bro, are they stupid? Yushu looked at Laybro and Ma Bailan oddly. How could people laugh so happily all of a sudden? Did he suffer some kind of shock? Shoo. Mengyao signaled Yushu not to say anything at this time. Yushu's kick had made things complicated, and they didn't know if it would end well. Mengyao didn't want to waste time with these people. She really wanted to treat Tang Yun to a meal. Oh, I got it. Yushu called out in sudden realization. They're so happy because Shield Bro said he'd let them go. They're so happy. Mengyao, Lin Yi, and Tang Yun couldn't help but laugh at Yushu's words. However, Lin Yi and Mengyao were already used to it. Tang Yun finally understood what Mengyao meant in the car. This was Yushu's personality. She'd understand it after interacting with her more. She was indeed a very cheerful girl. She was always so happy and didn't feel nervous at all. Chick, your joke isn't funny. Brother Lei clapped his hands and said, Today, none of you can leave. Just as Brother Lei was clapping, a group of men in black suits quickly ran over and surrounded Lin Yi and the other three. The leader, who had a scar on his face, turned to Brother Lei respectfully and said, Brother Lei, what do we do now? Beat the man until he's disabled and throw him out. Knock the woman out and keep her. Brother Lei's face showed a ruthless expression. His restaurant was wrecked. If word got out, he wouldn't be able to live in this world anymore. Oh, you called for help. Usually, the antagonist in the cartoon would do this after getting beaten up. But do you know the consequences? Yushu suddenly asked. The entire restaurant was filled with a tense atmosphere. However, after Yushu's words, everyone's face showed a strange expression. The atmosphere suddenly became less tense. Wasn't this chick scared? There were so many people standing here. How could she still have the mood to talk about such strange things? Chick, your chest is pretty big. I like it. Brother Lei looked at Yushu and licked his lips. I can tell you the consequences. You'll become my plaything. Brother Lei wasn't a fool, and he didn't dare to mess with just anyone. However, he had heard from Ma Bailan that the four of them came in a beetle. What background could they have? If there were only 2 people, he would have to think about it. But there were 4 of them. Other than the man, no one else had a car. Which rich kid didn't have a car? Besides, Brother Lei knew about the famous young masters in Songshan. He had never seen Lin Yi before. So, he was unscrupulous.
Bang.
Yushu, on the other hand, kicked out abruptly while Laybro was talking, landing another kick on the knife-scarred man who was surrounding her. The knife-scarred man had turned his head to look at Laybro, and Yushu's kick caught him off guard. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and he cried out in pain as he squatted on the ground, clutching his chest. Oh, oh, oh. I kicked him again. These people are worse than sharks.
They're so weak.
Yushu cheered. Yao Yao sis, come and play. It's so fun. Brother Lei's face darkened. This was a provocation. Yushu still dared to hit his men in front of so many people. She didn't respect him at all. He laughed coldly. Don't waste time talking to them. Just go. If the woman resists, take her down too. Meng Yao looked at Yushu helplessly. She made things worse. Luckily, Lin Yi was here. They didn't have to worry about not being able to leave. Are you really not letting us go? Lin Yi looked at Brother Lei.
Huh?
Do you know who I am? No one has ever been able to walk out of my territory standing up. Brother Lei laughed arrogantly. All of you have to stay here today, especially that girl. I don't mind telling you that my cousin is Li Zihua. You should know your place. If you know what's good for you, serve me well. Even if you kneel and beg me, I'll consider letting you leave. Your cousin is Li Zihua? Lin Yi was surprised. No wonder their names were so cool. One was Zihua, and the other was Lei. One was Floating Cloud Bar, and the other was Western Restaurant. It was a perfect match. Now you know how to be afraid. Brother Lei enjoyed this feeling. Every time he mentioned his cousin's name, the people who came to him would be scared shitless. They would also give out their women for him to play with. This time, Brother Lei thought the same. He wanted the three girls to take the initiative to serve him. There was no point in forcing them. Chapter 708. Not done yet. Since Li Dilei was Zihua's cousin, Lin Yi planned to use him to test the doctor beside Zihua, the person who poisoned him. Lin Yi, be careful. Tang Yun saw Lin Yi walking towards the men in black and quickly reminded him. Tang Yun, you don't understand, shield bro. It's the bad guys who need to be careful. Yushu said to Tang Yun. Tang Yun pouted, wondering why she didn't understand Lin Yi at all. She knew him very well, okay? How could these thieves be a match for Lin Yi? Wasn't she just worried about him? I'm telling him to be careful. Don't hurt them. Tang Yun said. Oh, it's fine even if they're hurt. We're just defending ourselves. That vixen Lingshan is very afraid of shield bro anyway. Yushu said nonchalantly. Li Dilei's expression changed. He didn't expect these people to be so fearless in this situation. There were only two possibilities. First, they were ignorant and fearless. They were all idiots. The second possibility was that they had absolute confidence in leaving this place. Before, Li Dilei thought that it was the first possibility and thought it was funny. But now, Li Dilei was leaning towards the second possibility. After hearing Zihua's name, not only was Lin Yi not afraid, but he even walked up to them and said that he wasn't leaving. Of course, this wasn't the main point. The main point was that Yushu mentioned Song Lingshan. She even dared to call Song Lingshan a vixen? Li Dilei wasn't unfamiliar with Song Lingshan's name. She was the captain of the criminal investigation team in the city police station. How could people like them who mingled in the underworld not have heard of it? Could these people be related to Song Lingshan? Li Dilei was nervous at the thought. He hesitated and decided to find out more about these people. Guys, you must have something to rely on if you dare to come here, right? Tell us. Don't ruin the Dragon King's temple. Lin Yi could naturally tell that Li Dilei was compromising. He changed his mind after hearing Lingshan's name. It didn't matter if Li Dilei had a powerful background or not. Lingshan could still deal with him. Of course, it would probably be very difficult to directly put him in prison, but if he came looking for trouble from time to time, it would be enough to make him suffer. How could someone like Li Dilei not have any evidence? It was obviously impossible. However, Lin Yi didn't reply. His fate was sealed the moment Lin Yi found out about his relationship with Zihua. He was destined to be Lin Yi's test subject against Zihua or the poisoner beside Master Bing. Since you guys don't want to tell me, then I can't do anything about it. I don't care if you guys have any background, but you have to give me an explanation for messing around in my Western restaurant. Take him down. Li Dilei said indifferently. He wasn't afraid of anything. So, what if he knew Lingshan? If he didn't touch those girls, that would be the end of it. Beating that brat up could be considered as relieving his anger and getting back some face. Even if Lingshaw knew about it, she wouldn't do anything to him. At most, she would just compensate him with some money. The men in black looked at Lin Yi cautiously, but they weren't too afraid. After all, they had the absolute advantage in numbers. On Lin Yi's side, Lin Yi was the only one who could make a move. As for Yushu, they didn't put her in their eyes at all. She was just a sneak attack. She didn't have any combat ability. Their eyes were all on Lin Yi. The moment Lin Yi got close, they moved. They didn't let their guard down and attacked together. They were ready to take down Lin Yi in one go. They had lost all their face, and they wanted to get it back. But they had a good idea. They moved and Lin Yi moved as well, but Lin Yi's speed was much faster than theirs. Before they could see what was going on, they felt a sharp pain in their necks, and their vision went black. They didn't know what happened after that. "Oh, Shield Bro, you're amazing. But can you leave one for me? I haven't had enough." Yushu screamed excitedly. "You're a little late." Lin Yi just knocked out the last man and he was falling to the ground. However, Lin Yi pulled him back and gave him a massage before pushing him to Yushu. "But it's okay, I woke him up." "Oh." Yushu looked at Lin Yi with admiration. He was amazing. He could wake someone up after knocking them out? Yushu looked at the black-clothed man wobbling towards her eagerly, ready to make her move. The black-clothed man's face was filled with terror, but he didn't have the strength to fight back at all. Lin Yi's push sent him stumbling towards Yushu's direction, as if he was doing an inertial exercise. He didn't know what happened to him. Why couldn't he control himself? In fact, Lin Yi did something to him. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't have allowed such a dangerous person to get close to Yushu and the others. However, the man in black was like a puppet. He couldn't resist at all. Not only the man in black, but even Li Dilei's eyes were filled with shock and fear. He was afraid that Lin Yi could knock out his men in an instant, but now he was afraid that Lin Yi could wake him up after knocking him out. However, what happened next was even more terrifying. Li Dilei watched as his last man was kicked in the crotch by Yushu. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the ground while foaming at the mouth, although the diners in the Western restaurant also heard the sound of fighting coming from the lobby. Who dared to come out at this time? They were afraid that they would be implicated, so they locked their doors tightly. As for those couples who passed by the Western restaurant and wanted to eat here, when they saw the situation in the lobby, they all turned around and left. Li Dilei watched as Lin Yi approached him step by step. He was filled with fear. This person was indeed fearless. He had miscalculated. "Shield Bro, can I kick this one too?" Yushu was addicted to kicking people. She felt that kicking bad guys was an incomparably satisfying thing. Li Dilei's face twitched. "Let you kick him? Wouldn't I die without descendants then? Bro, let's talk this out. Peace brings wealth." Li Dilei was afraid that Lin Yi would push him to Yushu as well. Wouldn't he be dead then? He knew that he wasn't Lin Yi's opponent. None of his men could defeat Lin Yi, and he wasn't stronger than them. Chapter 709. Leave him to die. "Ah!" Li Dilei screamed. He thought he was going to die, but he realized that he didn't feel anything. He was surprised, "Huh? It didn't hit me?" However, when Li Dilei looked down, he realized that his body was full of silver needles. Each of them shone under the lights of the restaurant. It was eerie and scary. These needles were on his body? Li Dilei was shocked. He didn't know what technique Lin Yi used, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that it wasn't a normal technique, and he wasn't playing with him. Lin Yi's technique against his subordinates was much sharper than this one. How could it be easier for him to deal with his subordinates? It was obviously impossible, but he didn't know what Lin Yi was trying to do. What did you do to me? What are these needles for?" Li Dilei asked in fear as he raised his hands. There was a needle in each of his hands. "Pull it out and you'll know," Lin Yi said faintly, "but you better not pull it out. Hurry up and call your cousin." If Lin Yi didn't say it, Li Dilei would have pulled the needles out, but he didn't dare to do it after Lin Yi said it. Lin Yi's words were scary. Who knew what would happen? Lin Yi didn't care if Li Delay removed the needles or not. He turned to Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yun. Let's go to another place. We won't eat here. Li Delay could only smile bitterly. He didn't expect things to end up like this. He could only watch Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yun leave. However, Yushu didn't seem to want to leave. She turned around and looked at the needles on Li Delay's body curiously. Shield bro, what are those? Can I pull one out and try? Don't pull it out. He'll die if you pull it out, Lin Yi said.
Oh, I see.
Forget it then. I don't want to kill anyone. Yushu shook her head, then let him die on his own. Li Delay sweated. Would he really die if he pulled the needles out? He didn't know, but Yushu's words almost angered him to death. The four walked out of the restaurant, and Meng Yao pushed Yushu to the side when she saw that she was still waving her hands around excitedly. Shu, get in the car first. Oh. Yushu nodded and got in the car first. Meng Yao then turned to Tang Yun. I'm sorry, Tang Yun. I wanted to treat you to a meal. I didn't think it would turn out like this. Shu's always like that. Always causing trouble. Don't mind her. You'll get used to it. Tang Yun didn't expect Meng Yao to explain things to her. Was this how Meng Yao's arrogant miss was? Yun didn't think it. Or was it because Meng Yao was easy to get along with? Tang Yun shook her head. It's nothing. No one wants to encounter something like this. It's just that this restaurant went overboard. Meng Yao sighed in relief when she saw that Tang Yun wasn't unhappy. She did come to thank Tang Yun today. No matter if they had conflicts in the past or if they were competitors, Meng Yao really wanted to treat Tang Yun to a meal today. She was afraid that Tang Yun would think that Yushu brought her to this place on purpose and mess things up. It's good that I met Li Delay. I wanted to test him too. Lin Yi waved his hand. Let's get in the car. Meng Yao and Tang Yun didn't understand Lin Yi's words. Why was it good to meet Li Delay? But since Lin Yi didn't say it out loud, they didn't ask. Meng Yao didn't want Tang Yun to look down on her. She wanted to use her identity as an employer to pry into Lin Yi's privacy. Tang Yun had the same idea. She didn't want Meng Yao to think that she was a busybody and didn't give Lin Yi any personal space. After getting in the car, Meng Yao asked Yushu, Shu, let's go to another restaurant. Don't look for another one like this. Where did you hear about this restaurant? I saw it on the internet. They said it's really romantic here, and, it's nothing. I just wanted to take a look. Yushu stopped herself from blurting out the sex toys she'd been talking about. There's nothing to experience. Don't believe these advertisements. Meng Yao didn't have a good impression of this restaurant. She decided not to come here anymore. Oh, I know another one. Yushu wanted to say something but was interrupted by Meng Yao. Okay, let's go to my family's hotel. Meng Yao didn't want any more trouble. She felt safer at her own hotel. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat when she heard Meng Yao's words. The difference between her and Meng Yao was too big. Her family had a hotel, but she didn't even have a house. This was the only thing that made Tang Yun feel inferior in front of Lin Yi. She wasn't any worse than Meng Yao and Yushu in terms of looks, but Lin Yi's best choice was either Meng Yao or Yushu. Plus, Yushu seemed to want to be a buy one get one free, a small wife. Tang Yun had a headache. Lin Yi didn't know that Tang Yun was thinking so much. He drove to Pingzhan Hotel. Pingzhan had a family dinner here before and Lin Yi attended it. Pingzhan had planned to have a party like this every week, but because of the falling chandelier, it was postponed. Today was the second time Lin Yi came to Pingzhan Hotel, but it was crowded here. The cars in front of the hotel weren't less than Starlight Hotel. However, the cars here were more business-oriented. Although they were luxurious, there were very few sports cars. It seemed that Pingzhan's hotel focused on business and meetings, while Starlight Hotel focused on entertainment. Most of the rich kids went there. Lin Yi drove the car into the parking lot, and a security guard directed Lin Yi to park the car. Meng Yao and Yushu rarely appeared here. Even when they had a meal with Pingzhan, they would sit in Faubert's car and drive into the internal parking lot. They would go through the staff passageway, so the security guards didn't know who the miss was. Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't put on the airs of a Mississippi. She kept a low profile as she entered the hotel lobby with Yushu, Tang Yun, and Lin Yi. They got themselves a room and went upstairs. Chapter 710. The common ground from Tang Yun's perspective. Those rich young masters or daughters in those soap operas would always have a CEO with them when they went to their families' hotels and malls, flattering them. This was also why Tang Yun felt that there was a gap between her and the miss, but now it seemed that the miss really was low-key. No one here knew her, and she didn't act like a miss at all. Meng Yao may have grown up in a rich family, but she didn't develop a domineering personality. One reason was because Peng Zhan's upbringing was strict, and the other was because the miss was a lonely person. She didn't make friends easily. Yushu was the only good friend she'd had since she was young, and the others weren't that good. Thus, the miss wasn't led astray by bad friends. They both didn't have a mother's love, and this caused Meng Yao and Xiao Xiao to have extreme personalities. They had one thing in common, and that was that they didn't have too many friends. Meng Yao only had Yushu, and Xiao Xiao didn't have any. But the miss was better than Xiao Xiao in the sense that her mother wasn't dead. There was still hope. And with Shu's company, she wasn't that lonely. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, had nothing, and she had a terminal illness. She could only squander her life to realize the value of her short life. Entering the room, Meng Yao gave the menu and machine to Tang Yun for her to order. But Tang Yun had never been to such a high-class restaurant before. She flipped through 2 pages and was shocked by the price. Why was it so expensive? One dish was enough to cover her family's food expenses for more than a week. Plus, this place had a buffet system. After seeing the dish on the menu, she just had to enter a code into the machine, and it would show if the kitchen could cook the dish or not. But Tang Yun didn't know how to use this thing. "I don't know how to order. You do it." Tang Yun was honest. She was poor, and there was no need to pretend in front of Meng Yao. She handed the menu and machine back to Meng Yao. Meng Yao could guess Tang Yun's dilemma. She took the menu and ordered a few dishes without saying anything. She didn't want to eat things like bird's nest and shark's fin since she didn't like it. But considering Tang Yun, she ordered bird's nest porridge and passed the menu to Yushu. Yushu flipped through the menu, only finding shark fins and no shark meat. She was a little disappointed. "Yao Yao, I suggest Uncle Chu add shark meat." Meng Yao was speechless. Why would her daddy care so much? He even had to order the dishes for the hotel? After some thought, he asked, "Do you want to eat shark meat?" "A little, but I don't know if it's as good as Shield Bros." Yushu gulped. Tang Yun felt a little uncomfortable. Did Lin Yi cook for them every day? Then asked the waiter if he can make it. "What else do you want to eat?" Meng Yao asked. "Nope." Yushu shook her head. "All right then. Lin Yi, what about you?" Meng Yao wasn't as calm as before in front of Lin Yi, but that was only in her heart. On the surface, her attitude towards Lin Yi was like ice, just like when Lin Yi first moved in. But was it really the same? Perhaps only Meng Yao herself could explain it clearly. Or perhaps she didn't understand it herself. "This is enough. I'm not picky when it comes to food." Lin Yi was telling the truth. Ever since he was young, he'd always been the one to pick his food. Wherever he went, he'd have to get used to the local food. Deep in the mountains, however, there was no food at all. Lin Yi ate whatever he could get his hands on. He had no choice at all. Meng Yao nodded and called the waiter over. She passed the machine to the waiter and asked, "Do you have shark meat here?" "Shark meat?" The waiter paused and said, "Please wait. I'll ask for you." With that, the waiter picked up the walkie-talkie and asked. After getting a confirmation from the kitchen, he said, "Yes, miss. How would you like to cook it?" "Can it be barbecued?" "I want to eat barbecued shark meat." Yushu said. "All right, I'll ask for you." The waiter said, and asked the kitchen in detail. "Yes, but this dish is specially made for you. The price might be a little higher. Is it acceptable?" "It's around 600 yuan. "Sure." Meng Yao nodded faintly. The price was nothing to her. She didn't have a concept of money. Although she wouldn't buy a whole house full of luxury goods like those gold diggers, she didn't care about the price either. The waiter ordered the barbecued shark meat through the walkie-talkie before bringing the drinks over. Meng Yao ordered fruit juice, since they were both girls and Lin Yi was driving. There was no need to drink to keep up appearances. Tang Yun, thank you for what you did today. Meng Yao raised her glass and said to Tang Yun. She hesitated and mocked herself, but it seems like we still can't be friends. Meng Yao was really touched by Tang Yun's action of calling Lin Yi today. But even if she was touched, she wouldn't compromise for her own happiness. Tang Yun wanted to take Lin Yi away from the villa.
She couldn't do that.
If Lin Yi left, where would she find another person who cared for her so much? Of course, the miss never thought that she would like Lin Yi. Lin Yi was such a playboy. How could she like him? I understand. Tang Yun nodded. She didn't think that the conflict between them could be resolved by the miss treating her to a meal. I called Lin Yi because I didn't want to use this method to defeat my competitor.
Haha.
Meng Yao smiled but didn't explain. Tang Yun didn't understand her dependence on Lin Yi. Oh, Yao sis, let's not talk about this topic. It's so boring. Yushu couldn't interrupt the conversation between the miss and Tang Yun. She changed the topic. Haha, then let's not talk about it. Meng Yao drank the juice in her glass and signaled to Tang Yun. Tang Yun also picked up her glass and drank the juice. She accepted Meng Yao's thanks. Actually, Tang Yun didn't think that Meng Yao would thank her so seriously. The relationship between the two was too weird. She wasn't used to eating together like this. Chapter 711. Chapter 0711, Dealing with Bad Guys. Tang Yun, how did you and Shield Bro get together? Yushu really wanted to know the answer. Lin Yi had only been in Songshan for a month, right? Why do you call him Shield Bro? Tang Yun didn't answer and asked back. She didn't understand what Shield Bro meant. Shield Bro, it's because... Yushu didn't finish her sentence and was interrupted by Meng Yao. Ahem, Shield Bro means that Shu feels that Lin Yi is like a shield. He can shield us from the wind and rain and deal with troubles. Meng Yao didn't want Yushu to say what Shield Bro meant. That would be awkward. What if she told Yushu that she hired Lin Yi to be a shield but didn't use him because he wasn't good enough? Tang Yun would laugh herself to death if that happened. Meng Yao regretted letting Lin Yi pretend to be her boyfriend back then. She wouldn't have had a chance with Tang Yun if she'd let him pretend to be her boyfriend. Oh, I see. Tang Yun nodded. She didn't suspect anything. This was what a bodyguard and follower should do. She just didn't know that Lin Yi was hired by Meng Yao to pretend to be her boyfriend. It was just that the nature of the job changed after that. Lin Yi sat on the side and didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say. All this time, Lin Yi couldn't see through the Mississippi. What kind of attitude did she have towards him? Lin Yi even thought that the miss really liked him when he saw the miss fighting with Tang Yun. But when he got home, it didn't seem to be the case. The miss had hidden herself very well, and no one knew what she was thinking. Perhaps what Yushu saw was only the surface of the miss's personality. Similarly, Yushu should be the same. The miss only saw Yushu on the surface. Lin Yi didn't believe that Yushu was that dumb. The feeling she gave Lin Yi was that Yushu was smarter than anyone. It was just that she liked living like this. She was happy and carefree. But while the two sisters hid their feelings deeply, their feelings for each other were real, and their care for each other was real as well. This was something that Lin Yi admired, especially after Yushu found out that Meng Yao had fainted. Not many people were able to do that, even if it meant going through thick and thin together. It's your turn. How did you get together with Shield Bro? Yushu continued. Lin Yi and I. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi, and seeing that he didn't stop her, she started to speak. Thinking about what happened between her and Lin Yi, it was funny. Lin Yi probably didn't have that kind of feelings for her. It was just that after the incident with Zhou Ruoming, she naturally had a defensive mentality. She also thought that Lin Yi was a rich kid who wanted to hit on her. But a series of things happened. Lin Yi helped her a few times. The relationship between the two seemed to get closer. But if they were to talk about a real breakthrough, it was probably when Lin Yi came to her house for the first time. He met Xiaofan and wanted to jump off the building. Was that when she started to like Lin Yi? Tang Yun shook her head. She didn't remember. She didn't know how she fell in love with Lin Yi and got together with him. Tang Yun seemed to be talking to herself, but it also seemed like she was reminiscing. She told Yushu and Meng Yao about what happened between her and Lin Yi. It was only now that Meng Yao understood how helpless Tang Yun was when she was harassed by Zhou Ruoming. Because of her identity, she never thought that a guy could be so bad, so immoral, and so shameless when it came to pursuing a girl. Other than Pin Liang, Meng Yao didn't have any other harassers at school. Everyone knew who she was, and no one dared to do anything to her. Even Pin Liang had Yushu teasing him every day. Meng Yao didn't have that kind of helplessness or fear in front of Pin Liang. But then again, Pin Liang dared to kidnap her even though she was the Mississippi. Wouldn't Ruoming be even more reckless if Tang Yun didn't have an identity or background? She thought to herself, if it wasn't for Lin Yi, one could imagine what would happen to Tang Yun. Before, Meng Yao thought that the bullying and harassing of girls in school was very far away from her. She even thought that it was just a rumor. However, after hearing Tang Yun's words, she realized that these things were happening around her. It was just that she didn't know about it. Thinking about the relationship between Lin Yi and Tang Yun, it was a beautiful love story. The hero saving the beauty. How cliché. But it was an unchanging story that had been passed down for thousands of years. Wasn't the legend of the white snake the same? After listening to Tang Yun's story, Meng Yao didn't hate Tang Yun that much. She even sympathized with her. But sympathy was sympathy. Who would sympathize with her? She finally had the feeling of being cared for and cared for. She wouldn't allow anyone to take that away. Oh, if anyone pursues you in the future, leave it to me. I guarantee that they will return in failure. Look, Yao Yao Sis's pursuers already had their kidneys cut out. Yushu said, I specialize in dealing with evil people. Yushu was joking, but Meng Yao understood what she was implying. She believed that Tang Yin understood as well. She didn't need Lin Yi's help. She could stop her love rival from harassing her. That's all. Tang Yin also felt that Yushu wasn't stupid at all. She was terrifyingly smart, because you couldn't tell which words were true and which were false. It seemed like a joke, but there were a lot of hidden meanings. Oh, that's boring. Yushu was a little disappointed. Pin Liang's a cripple now, and Ruoming's a coward now. We don't even know who to play with in school anymore. Shu, your mission is to study hard. Don't play with people. Meng Yao said to Yushu. Okay, I won't play then. I'll listen to Yao Yao Sis. Yushu nodded and turned to Lin Yi. Shield bro, you need to study hard too. Otherwise, you won't be able to get into the same university as us. Tang Yun was speechless. Get into the same university? Are you guys not going to let Lin Yi go for the rest of his life? You want him to be your follower for life? Why would he get into the same university? Watch him flirt? Meng Yao frowned and said subconsciously. But after saying that, she felt that it wasn't appropriate. Tang Yun was still sitting in front of her. Wasn't she talking about Lin Yi and Tang Yun? Chapter 712. I can't be with you forever. Of course. Tang Yun nodded. That was her decision all along. Since she'd taken this step, she'd keep going. If Lin Yi didn't want her, she'd die in front of him. Oh, then can you accept Shield Bro's womanizing? Yushu continued. Or, can you accept him having other wives? Ah. Tang Yun was stunned by Yushu's question. What kind of question was that? What did he mean by she could accept him having other wives? How could he accept it? I'm sure it's not just me. Other girls won't be able to accept it either, No. Tang Yin was about to say that she couldn't accept it, but she swallowed it back down. Was this a trap set up by Yushu? It seemed that there were girls who could accept the fact that Lin Yi had another wife, Meng Yao and Yushu. Didn't the two of them claim that they wanted to be Lin Yi's first and second wives? They even wanted to play 3P together. Tang Yun was at a loss. This Yushu wasn't as dumb as she looked. Talking to her was really scary. One misstep, and he would fall into the trap. Every single one of Yushu's questions was so tricky that it wasn't easy to answer. Tang Yin thought that Yushu might use that as an excuse to attack her if she didn't accept it. She might say, "You can't accept it, but we can." Wouldn't that make him seem a little stingy and weak? But to say that she could accept it, Tang Yun really couldn't.
Why?
Why did he have to accept other wives? Wasn't he just looking for trouble for himself? But seeing that Yushu was looking at her, Tang Yun knew that she had to answer. She'd already made up her mind to be Xiao Xiao's mistress, so what if she accepted a wife? Thus, he gritted his teeth and forced himself to say, "That depends on what kind of wife it is." Tang Yun's answer was ambiguous. The initiative was in her hands. In other words, whether she accepted or not, it was up to her. She also did not give any criteria for judging. However, even so, Tang Yun's answer was out of Lin Yi's expectations. Tang Yun could accept him having another girl? "Oh, what do you think about me being Shield Bro's concubine? Sister Yao Yao is the first wife, and you are the second wife. Or you can be the main wife, you guys decide." "I'll be the second wife," Yushu said.
Ah.
Tang Yun didn't expect Yushu to say something like this. Wasn't this putting her in a difficult position? Should I accept it or not? He was a little reluctant to accept it, but if he said no, wouldn't that be saying that Yushu wasn't good enough? Wouldn't that offend someone? "Little Shu, what nonsense are you talking about?" Meng Yao frowned. Yushu was getting more and more out of hand. She quickly stopped her. "Why isn't the food here yet? Let's see if I can shut your mouth later."
Oh.
"I'll stop, I was just saying," Yushu said with a wave of her hand. "Tang Yun, Shu is always like this. She's always talking nonsense. I want to send her to the mental hospital," Meng Yao explained, blushing a little. Yushu had brought her in earlier, and it made Meng Yao feel uncomfortable all over. "Oh, Yao Yao sis, don't send me to the mental hospital," Yushu exclaimed. "There's nothing fun there." Meng Yao was speechless. Tang Yun was the same. Yushu didn't want to go to the mental hospital because there's nothing fun there? "It's nothing, I'm getting used to it." Tang Yun touched her forehead and smiled bitterly. Lin Yi didn't interrupt. How was he supposed to interrupt? This topic seemed to be beneficial to him. Soon the food was served. The shark meat Yushu ordered was also placed on the table. It didn't take long for all the dishes to be ready. One had to admit that Pingzhan Hotel was quite efficient. "All right, the dishes are ready. I wanted to say something to thank you, but I'm not really good with words. Linny knows that I don't really talk much." Meng Yao wanted to say something before the meal, but she rarely spoke in a situation like this. She didn't know what to say. But before she could finish, she saw Yushu sneakily picking up a piece of shark meat and putting it into her mouth. Meng Yao angrily smashed Yushu's hand with her chopsticks, knocking the shark meat into her bowl. "Shu, what are you doing?" "I'm trying to see if it's good." Yushu looked like she was about to cry. She rubbed her wrist. "Oh, I almost got crippled. The guest hasn't eaten yet. How can you eat first?" Meng Yao scolded. "How would I know? I'm always the one eating first at home," Yushu said weakly. "It's nothing, let her eat first." Tang Yin saw how pitiful Yushu was and stopped Meng Yao from getting angry. She didn't have any rules, it didn't matter who ate first. "I'm sorry. This Shu." Meng Yao rubbed her temples. "You need to have a good mentality to live with her." Tang Yun shook her head. Yushu was a little weird, but living with her would be fun. There were two sides to everything. However, Tang Yun quickly threw this thought to the back of her head. Live with Yushu? She couldn't really let her be Lin Yi's small wife, right? Yushu continued eating the shark meat, but shook her head after one bite. "It's not as good as Shield Bro's cooking. Lin Yi can't be with you for the rest of your life. You need to learn how to adapt to life." Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Yushu didn't say anything and continued eating the shark meat. The atmosphere became heavy. Tang Yun didn't know what to say. She looked at Yushu's pitiful face and didn't know what to say. Could she let Lin Yi be her nanny for the rest of his life? What about herself? Although Meng Yao tried her best to maintain the atmosphere of the meal, the more she tried, the stranger the atmosphere became. Tang Yun felt uncomfortable. She felt that Meng Yao and Yushu were two strong rivals. After the meal, Meng Yao took out her VIP card when they were paying the bill, and the waiter in charge of the room froze. She didn't expect Meng Yao to have a diamond card here. The diamond card was a VIP card issued by Pengzhan Industries. There were less than 100 of them. Chapter 7:13. Pig's brain. The waiter's attitude was much more respectful than before as he carefully took Meng Yao's diamond card and left the room. After a while, the door opened again, but it wasn't the waiter who came in. It was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man walked quickly to Meng Yao and said respectfully, "Miss, you're here. Why didn't you call me? I could have arranged a VIP room for you." This middle-aged man was the CEO of Pengzhan Hotel. His surname was Liu, and he was 35 or 36 years old. Now that Pengzhan's words were like the sun in the sky, most of the decisions in the board of directors were made by Pengzhan alone. As a result, the people in charge of the other industries were all feeling insecure. Those who were close to the other shareholders were now trying to switch their allegiance to Pengzhan. It couldn't be helped. Pengzhan wasn't only the biggest shareholder of the group, but he also had the second biggest shareholder, Lin Yi, as his proxy. This meant that he had the two most important votes in the group, and no one dared to oppose him. Manager Liu didn't know that the second biggest shareholder of the company was sitting right in front of him. If he knew, he'd be scared to death. "I don't want to trouble you." Meng Yao frowned. She didn't think that Manager Liu would come in person. She wouldn't have taken out the VIP card if she knew. Meng Yao didn't go to the VIP room because she really didn't want to. She really didn't like the feeling of being recognized as the Miss and being surrounded by people like stars around the moon. Meng Yao really didn't like that feeling. So Meng Yao chose to keep a low profile and ask for a private room. But now that Manager Liu was here, Meng Yao was afraid that Tang Yun would misunderstand and think that she was looking down on her by not bringing her to the VIP room. The Miss hesitated and thought of a solution. "Manager Liu, you still have a VIP card, right? Get one for my friend, and I'll talk to Faubert." The people in charge of the industries had the right to introduce and apply for VIP cards, but the highest level diamond card had to be approved by the headquarters before it could be applied. So, if it wasn't a very important client, Manager Liu wouldn't apply for a diamond card. Meng Yao said that she wanted to talk to Faubert, so naturally, she wanted to apply for a diamond card. Manager Liu quickly nodded. How could the group not approve something that Missy had asked for? Moreover, eldest Miss was going to tell Faubert. Tang Yun, on the other hand, didn't think too much about it. If Meng Yao acted like a miss the moment she arrived, it would look like she was showing off in front of Tang Yun. On the other hand, Tang Yun felt that the miss was still keeping a low profile. Tang Yun only realized that the VIP card Meng Yao wanted was for her when they went downstairs. She shook her head quickly. "I can't afford it even if it's for me. The prices here are too high." Tang Yun told the truth. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. The miss knew about her family's situation. "You can also go to Pengzhan Mall. There's a discount there too," Meng Yao explained. I usually go to the night market to buy it." Tang Yun still rejected. This thing was useless to her, and the card was precious. She didn't want to owe Meng Yao a favor. "Then let's give it to Lin Yi." Since Meng Yao had already said it, it wouldn't be nice to refuse. It would be the same if it was given to Lin Yi. Manager Liu felt that the name Lin Yi was familiar. Where had he heard it before? However, it wasn't nice to ask in front of the Mississippi. He quickly applied for a diamond card for Lin Yi. After the miss left, Manager Liu picked up the phone and reported to Faubert. The moment he mentioned Lin Yi, Faubert's answer shocked Manager Liu. Lin Yi was the second biggest shareholder of the company that had shown his face once. He was said to be Pengzhan's son-in-law. Why would someone like him need a membership card? However, thinking about how the miss was low-profile and how Lin Yi was also a low-profile person, Manager Liu felt extremely honored. He was able to apply for a card for the second biggest shareholder of the group, especially when the person who introduced him was him. Li Delay watched as Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yin walked out of the Western restaurant. He regretted his lust. He was scared when he saw his underlings lying on the ground. However, he didn't forget Lin Yi's words. He quickly picked up the phone and called his cousin. There were so many needles in his hands and body. He didn't know what was so special about them. However, he didn't dare to pull them out casually. After all, Lin Yi told him that he would die if he pulled them out. Although he didn't believe it, he had to believe it when he thought about Lin Yi's skills. The reason was simple. Li Delay was the leader of these people. Lin Yi even beat his underlings to the ground. How could he let him go? Hello? Lazy? What's up? Sihua was troubled. The poisoning plan failed, and he didn't know how to deal with Lin Yi. He received a call from his cousin, but he didn't know what he was going to do. Cousin, you have to help me. The place was destroyed, and I'm stuck with needles all over my body. I don't dare to pull them out. Li Delay said with a sad face. His only hope was for Sihua to avenge him. Your restaurant was destroyed? You're covered in needles? What do you mean? What happened? Tell me in detail. Sihua's heart skipped a beat. The more troubled he was, the more trouble he'd get himself into. His brother was usually fine, and everyone in the underworld knew that he was his cousin. They'd give him some face, so why was there a problem today? It's like this. Li Delay didn't dare to hide it and told Sihua everything. He couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. There were people in the Western restaurant, and the scarred man was Sihua's direct subordinate. He was just sent to watch over the place.
Fuck.
You're a pig brain. Do you have nothing better to do? There are women everywhere. Aren't you afraid of ruining your business by flirting with customers? Don't you know that your restaurant still has to pay to the owner every month? Sihua was furious. His brother was too arrogant. However, he couldn't just ignore his brother. They pierced needles in your hands and body? Don't you know how to go to the hospital? What's the point of calling me? Li Delay froze. Yeah, why was he so obedient? What he should do now was to go to the hospital, not call his cousin. His cousin wasn't a doctor, and he couldn't treat the needles in his body. Chapter 714. Nothing? Li Delay hung up the phone and found a lackey who wasn't lying on the ground to accompany him to the First People's Hospital. Li Delay felt embarrassed under everyone's surprised gazes. Everyone in the hospital looked at him as if he was a monster. After all, he was covered in silver needles like a porcupine. Those who didn't know the truth would think that something was wrong with him. Li Delay didn't dare to stay any longer and went straight to the surgery consultation room. He was a gangster, and his underlings often got injured from conflicts with others, so he was familiar with the surgeons here. Wang bro, help. Quick, help me check the silver needles on my body. Li Delay saw a familiar face. It was Dr. Wang from the surgery department. Dr. Wang didn't have anything to do at the moment, and was stunned when he saw Delay. He asked curiously, Boss Li, what happened to you? Did you get acupuncture? Acupuncture my ass. I was stabbed by someone. Li Delay was speechless. He gritted his teeth when he thought of Lin Yi. That person told me that he wouldn't let me pull it out. He said that he would die if I pulled it out. That's why I rushed to the hospital. Dr. Wang, you're knowledgeable. Can you take a look at me? He would die if he pulled it out? It was the first time Dr. Wang heard of this. How many needles were stuck in his body? He was fine when they were inserted, but he would die if he pulled it out? Was he trying to scare him? Dr. Wang didn't believe it, but he didn't dare to ignore Li Delay's explanation. I've never seen it before. How about I get the chief of our department to take a look at you? That's fine. Thank you, Wang bro. Li Delay felt embarrassed and didn't want too many people to know about it. However, he couldn't care too much since it was a matter of life and death. After a while, Dr. Wang brought an old man over and let Li Delay take a look. The old man didn't see anything special about the needles. If the needles were poisoned, Li Delay would have died a long time ago. It didn't matter whether he pulled it out or not. If it wasn't poisoned, he wouldn't die even if he pulled it out. The needles were only inserted in a shallow area and didn't hurt his organs. How could he die after pulling it out? However, the old man wasn't stupid. He didn't say anything since he knew about Li Dilei's condition. I personally think it's fine. I can pull it out for you, but if anything happens, the hospital won't be responsible. Li Dilei suddenly felt guilty. He thought that it wouldn't be a problem to pull out a few small needles in the hospital, but the old specialist in the hospital said that he wasn't confident. So, how could he pull them out? Li had no choice. He could only call Dilei's phone again. Li Dilei called Sihua again. But the hospital said that they won't be responsible if anything happens after the needle is removed. Li Dilei panicked. Brother, can you help me think of a solution? What should I do? Sihua didn't expect his cousin to be so useless, but the severity of the situation made it seem like he couldn't just ignore it. Wait, I'll go take a look now. Sihua asked which hospital and ward Li Dilei was in and rushed over. Li looked at Li. Li Dilei was Li, and Li, isn't he a porcupine? Why are there thorns all over his body? Even the hospital can't pull it out. Li Sihua looked at the needles on Li Dilei's body and didn't think there was anything wrong. Yeah, Wang bro, and the specialist said that they can't pull it out. They won't be responsible if anything happens. Li Dilei nodded. Wait here, I'll go ask. Li Sihua walked into the surgery room and saw Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang naturally knew Li Sihua. He was one of the most powerful people in the city. He didn't dare to neglect him and quickly walked over. Sihua bro. Dr. Wang, how's my cousin's condition? Sihua nodded. He didn't bother with small talk and went straight to the point. Actually, according to my judgment, he's fine. Dr. Wang told the truth. The needles aren't deep, so it's impossible to hurt his organs. It's nonsense to say that he'll die if he pulls it out. If you say that the needles are poisonous, it doesn't matter if you pull it out or not. You'll be poisoned even if you don't pull it out. Besides, there are needles on Boss Li's hands, so there aren't any fatal spots.
Oh?
What do you mean? Li Sihua felt that Dr. Wang was right. What fatal spots could there be on the hands? The problem is that your brother's words are scary. He said that he'll die if the needles are pulled out. No one can bear this responsibility. It's better to be safe than sorry, isn't it? Dr. Wang smiled bitterly. Li Sihua nodded. He understood Dr. Wang's difficulty. Li Dilei was his cousin, and if something happened, he was afraid that Li Dilei would cause trouble for him. How about we pull out the needles on his hands first? I think there won't be any problems. Even if there's a problem, I'll take responsibility. What do you think? Li Sihua pondered and asked. He couldn't let his brother live like a porcupine, right? He had to solve it eventually. After this, Li Sihua still had to return to Master Bing's place to discuss countermeasures. They had to deal with Lin Yi. It wasn't as simple as breaking Master Bing's legs and killing Zhang Long and Li Yao. They had to destroy a skyscraper. Lin Yi casually used a few forklifts and bombs, and 100 million was gone. Master Bing only demolished his girlfriend's bungalow, but Li Yao demolished a skyscraper. How cruel. He can pull out the needles himself. Sihua bro, why don't you help him? Dr. Wang naturally didn't want to do it.
Who would do such a risky thing?
All right, then help me look after him. If there's a problem, we can deal with it in time. Li Sihua nodded and agreed. Li Dilei saw his cousin coming out with Dr. Wang and quickly asked, Bro, how is it? I'll help you pull out the needles first. There aren't any fatal spots on your hands, so it should be fine. Many people live with broken arms and legs, don't they? Li Sihua said. Li Dilei thought about it and agreed. He nodded and said to Sihua, All right, pull out the needles on my hands first. Pulling out a needle wasn't a big deal. Sihua easily pulled out the needles on Li Dilei's left hand. Li Dilei's hand didn't even bleed. Chapter 7:15. It can't be cured, only an idiot like you would believe it. Sihua sneered. Haven't you seen Tang Bohu touch autumn fragrance? Isn't that what Han Xiao half-step bumpy is like? Li Dilei blushed. He was too careful. How could he be tricked like this? How embarrassing. How could he live in the underworld if this got out? I'm sorry, bro. I made you suffer. Li Dilei said embarrassedly and turned to Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang, please keep this a secret. Don't worry, it's normal for a doctor to keep a secret for his patient. Not to mention Boss Lee, Dr. Wang was happy to pretend that he didn't know since it had nothing to do with him. All right, don't embarrass yourself here. Hurry up and pull out the rest of the needles. Sihua glared at Li Delay. Yes, yes. Li Delay nodded and wanted to use his left hand to pull out the needles on other parts of his body. However, he realized that his left hand couldn't move when he lifted his arm. He wanted to pinch the needles, but he couldn't feel his fingers at all. Even his entire hand couldn't feel anything. What are you doing? Sihua didn't know what happened to Li Delay when he didn't move. Bro, my hand. I can't move my hand. Li Delay stared at his left hand in fear. He couldn't feel his left hand at all. He could move his arm, but he couldn't control anything above his wrist. Can't move? What do you mean? Sihua was stunned. Bro, I can't move my left hand. It doesn't feel like it's mine. I can't feel it at all. Li Delay said and shook his left arm, but he still couldn't feel anything. How is this possible? Sihua frowned and looked at Li Delay's left hand carefully. He didn't find anything wrong, so he turned to Dr. Wang. Dr. Wang, what do you think is going on? Dr. Wang was surprised. Li Delay's left hand was fine before the needles were pulled out. How come he couldn't feel anything after the needles were pulled out? Is it numb? Let's wait and see. Dr. Wang had never seen anything like this before. No, it's definitely not numb. I don't feel anything at all. It's as if this hand isn't mine anymore. Li Delay shook his head continuously. What's wrong? Li Delay shook his head. Does it have anything to do with the silver needles? Sihua looked at Li Delay's hand suspiciously. It's hard to say. Dr. Wang didn't know whether it was related or not. In short, he had never seen a similar situation. So now, Sihua could only hope that Dr. Wang had a solution. Now we can only take an X-ray first. If there are no problems, do a comprehensive examination and wait for the conclusion to come out, Dr. Wang suggested. All right. Sihua nodded and asked Dr. Wang to bring Li Delay for a checkup. As for the other needles on Li Delay's body, he didn't dare to pull them out. He could only leave them there. Although it was a little unsightly and eye-catching, who could guarantee that the situation of losing feeling in the left hand would not happen again after these silver needles were removed? Whether or not there was a connection between the two was still hard to say. Soon, Li Delay's results came out. However, the results made both Li Delay and Sihua pale. Hand nerve necrosis? The Li brothers widened their eyes when they saw the results. This is only the nerve, but according to the system's examination, the muscle tissue of the hand is also showing signs of necrosis. Dr. Wang also felt that it was inexplicable. The nerves and muscles were all necrotic after being pricked by a silver needle? Wasn't this a little too inconceivable? The strangest thing was that there was no poison on the needle at all. It was just a normal needle. Then what should we do now? Can it be cured? Sihua asked. We can try, but it's best to amputate the left hand immediately to prevent the necrosis from affecting the arm, Dr. Wang said. Sihua frowned. There was no need to describe how shocked he was. Who did Li Delay offend? Why was he being harmed like this? He couldn't help but yell at Li Delay. What's his background? Who exactly did you provoke? I don't know. He's just here to eat. Li Delay was also terrified. He was dumbfounded when he heard Dr. Wang saying that he might have to amputate his hand. Wasn't this too scary? Here to eat? Think carefully. Is there any information? What's his name? What does he look like?
Sihua asked.
I remember. There's a girl called Tang Yun among them. Li Delay was sensitive to beautiful girls' names, so he remembered Tang Yun's name. Tang Yun. Sihua's expression froze. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? Tang Yun? Wasn't that Lin Yi's girlfriend? Yes, that's her name. I can't remember the guy who attacked me, but his surname is Lin. Li Delay didn't notice his cousin's expression as he tried to recall with his eyes closed.
Lin?
Is his name Linny? Sihua took a deep breath and tried to control his emotions. Yes, his name is Linny. Brother, do you know this person? Can you ask him to save me? Li Dile was overjoyed when he heard that his cousin knew this person. I do? A complicated expression flashed across Sihua's eyes. But he won't come to save you. He won't come. Li Dile was in despair. Why? Brother, please beg him. I can give him as much money as he wants. I can even hold a banquet to apologize to him. I don't want to lose my hands. I have a deep grudge against him. No wonder he wasn't afraid after hearing my name. Sihua sighed. You shouldn't have used my name. You're just looking for trouble for yourself. Sihua sighed. You shouldn't have used my name.
Ah?
A deep grudge? Li Dile was dumbfounded. How would he know that Lin Yi and Sihua had a grudge against each other? Whenever he used his cousin's name, people would respect him. Li Dile didn't expect to meet Sihua's enemy. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.